and raised in Keams Canyon. I appreciate his knowledge of the Navajo Nation and his employment of Navajos at his other award-winning hotels in Gallup and Durango. The Navajo Nation is always open to working with good people who are willing to increase our overall revenues, work with our people, and are dedicated to strengthening our great Navajo Nation. So thank you, Mr. Michael, for really working on that. When it comes to our veterans, we continue to make progress serving our Navajo veterans. Soon, many of our Navajo veterans won't need to travel long distances to Albuquerque, to Phoenix, to Prescott to receive primary VA health care. They can receive it right here at home. In January, the Northern Arizona Veterans Administration Healthcare opened its first clinic at the Chinle IHS Hospital. On March 20th, it opened its second VA clinic at the Kayenta IHS Hospital. These primary care clinics provide face-to-face health care to our Navajo veterans, save them and their families on money, travel time, wear and tear on their vehicles. Soon, 2 more clinics will open later this year. For this, I thank CEO Steve Samples of Northern Arizona Veterans Administration Healthcare and Chief Medical Officer Kevin Gaines of the Navajo Area Healthcare Services Office. Yeah. Working with our Navajo Veterans Administration, their concerns for Navajo veterans is making that possible. Processing veterans payments, we are working to get our veterans payments out quickly with guidance from HESI, BNS, veterans checks, much like we do today with the TANF program. All of us want to do what we can to make life better for our Navajo veterans and our families, those who we know, those we work alongside. Many continue to struggle with the internal wounds and memories from their service. Since January, for the first time, our Veterans Office has been conducting talking circles with our vets, starting with Chinle, Fort Defiance, and Tuba City. This provides a safe space for our veterans to come together to talk and heal and process their wartime experiences with those who have similar experiences. Between 8 and 30 veterans usually attend those circles. So thank you for all of those that are managing those talking circles to help our veterans. We need to do more to support our veterans. I ask everyone here today to join me and Director Baldwin on May 27, Memorial Day, as we rededicate the Navajo Nation Veterans Memorial Park in their honor. Chinle Warrior Nursing Home, those most vulnerable are our elderly veterans. My administration will continue on advocacy to seek funding for the next phase of the Chinle Warriors Nursing Home. I will pursue grants like the ones we applied for through the U.S. Veterans Administration last Thursday for $54.2 million. This is the first time any tribal nation applied for this funding, and that will help us get the Warriors Home built. I am proud to work on this on behalf of all of our veterans. I want to continue to the ongoing collaboration with the Navajo Nation Council's appropriation for the first phases of construction of the Warriors Home. And with that, I just want to continue to reiterate, thank you for the Navajo Nation Council for their first phase of construction. I look forward to really moving that along as well. When it comes to our veterinarian medical officers hired, the Division of Natural Resources made a significant hire, one that addresses the long-standing needs for veterinarians on the Navajo Nation. On April 26, it was my pleasure to welcome Dr. David Manuelito as the new Director of Navajo Veterinarian Program Management. His hiring ended a 2-year vacancy in the program. Dr. Manuelito brings 15 years of experience with Cedar Animal Medical Center in Gallup and training from the Thale Regional Equine Hospital at Santa Fe. He is a graduate of Tallahatchie High School, New Mexico State University, and Colorado State University. Under Dr. Manuelito's leadership and with our MOU with the University of Arizona's College of Veterinary Medicine, I look forward to the young veterinarians returning home for their first 2 years and 3 years after graduation to hone their veterinarian skills. I look forward to when they come and work for us. Regarding the animal care, care of animals. I'd like to express special thanks to New Mexico Congresswoman Theresa Ledger Fernandez for securing $1 million for the Navajo Nation through a congressional direct spending request that will revitalize the animal shelter in Crown Point. Thank you, Congresswoman. With an estimated cost of $2 million, the new animal shelter will serve as a model for animal control and veterinarians. The 24th Navajo Nation Council allocated $250,000 for the shelter's design and construction. With the 25th Navajo Nation Council's assistant to fund the shortfall, we can have this built as soon as possible. Oh, yeah, animal shelters.
Just really quickly, President, if we could avoid the clapping so that we try to provide that same respect for all of our presenters.
Okay. Yeah. National priority list in Lagajage Mining District. After decades of asking and waiting, the federal EPA and at last declared the Navajo Nation as a Superfund site of uranium mine cleanup. On March 14 and 15, federal officials from U.S. EPA Region 9 and Washington visited Cove Chapter to announce it would be the first national priority listed Superfund site on the Navajo Nation land. Its purpose is to clean up the community's abandoned uranium mines. I thank the Honorable Delegate Amber Crotty, I'll give you an air clap, okay, and Brenda Jesus for their dedication and attendance in this meeting. To the Honorable Delegates that were in attendance. On March 7, the EPA added Lagajage Mountain Mining District to its national priorities list. After decades, Cove, Lagajage, and Round Rock chapters will finally see the mines throughout the Lagajage and Carrizo Mountains sealed. This will give our people the protection against radiation exposure they have begged for over the decades with little response until now. Our Navajo Nation Washington office is addressing radiation exposure among our people through advocacy in Congress. It has led to the bipartisan passage of the Radiation Exposure Compensation Reauthorization Act in the U.S. Senate. So to Justin Hosteen and his team for working diligently in Washington, D.C. to make sure that happens in the Senate. We honor the key contributors to the Navajo Nation advocates like Leslie Begay and Phil Harrison Jr., who urge support as the bill moves forward in the House. I asked the council to work with my office to develop 2 Navajo Nation position statements. One, to address the cleanup of abandoned uranium mines on the Navajo Nation, and 2, another to address renewed uranium mining near the Navajo Nation south of Grand Canyon. And I think walking over, I was told that it was actually amended to be on this agenda. So thank you to the Navajo Nation Council for really having that foresight to make sure that we protect our lands from uranium mining or transportation and to make it as difficult as possible. My concern is the transport of uranium or Navajo EPA is working with the Coconino County Board of Supervisors and the U.S. Forest Service to receive advance warning of any uranium or shipments from the mine. I ask the Honorable Resource and Development Committee to pass uranium transport regulations that Navajo EPA and DOJ will have ready for approval within the next month. These regulations will allow us to restrict uranium transport on the Navajo Nation by requiring a notice and a comment period, licensing fees, bonding requirements in the case of any accidents, route restrictions, and curfews on the transportation hours. Again, this is a strong, bold statement on behalf of the Navajo Nation President that we do not want any uranium being transported across the Navajo Nation. And I look forward to working with the Honorable Council to make sure that we prevent that from happening. We are assessing the viability and litigation and different advocacy strategies at state and federal level as well. Arpa. In the last several weeks, my office has been working very closely with the leadership of the Honorable Chairwoman Parrish as well and her committee to make sure that things are moving when it comes to Arpa. So again, thank you, Honorable Chairwoman Parrish, for your leadership, your foresight, and your dedication to make sure that we take the best opportunities with Arpa. The Office of the Speaker and several other offices within the executive branch. We are developing a plan to ensure we optimize the ARPA fiscal recovery funds that were provided to the Navajo Nation in 2021. On Friday, many delegates and the speaker dedicated more than 6 hours to learn about the plan to optimize ARPA FRF funds to make the funds go further than we originally imagined. To be clear, we are not talking about taking money away from delegate regional plans. The $8.8 million per delegate will stay intact. This plan identifies which ARPA projects will stay as ARPA-funded projects to meet the December 2026 deadline. Unspent ARPA funds will be reallocated and placed into a new fund. The new fund will provide flexibility and relieve the pressure of the federal deadlines. My ask to this honorable body of the Navajo Nation Council is that the new fund be leveraged to borrow up to $1 billion so that we can do all the ARPA projects we envision and much, much more. This is a bold and new approach. Let's be bold and approve this concept to optimize opportunities. I ask you to support the plan and deliver legislation to my desk within the next few weeks. Enterprise Resource Planning System. In the coming months, I will seek your support for a pivotal step in modernizing our financial operations. We will implement a new enterprise resource planning system that will require legislative approval for the ERP contract. The current system is so old that it has become a bottleneck with inefficiencies and delays in payments, some of which have led to critical services being interrupted. Stories of unpaid invoices and missed signatures are all too common and highlight the need to modernize. With the our ERP system, we expect to streamline our financial and operational processes, making them easier to use, and for the first time have the ability to communicate across all programs instantly and automatically. Under the leadership of Debbie Nez Manuel and Controller Sean McCabe, with the collaboration of key departments, we've chosen a firm to help us transition from the FMIS system to a robust, fully integrated ERP system. After nearly a year of work, a vendor was selected and notified last Thursday. I will need Navajo Nation Council's support and approval for the ERP contract so we can begin a new era of transparency, efficiency, and effectiveness to serve the Navajo people. Together, let's eliminate the financial system inefficiencies that have impeded our progress for many, many years. Navajo Department of Transportation. Road projects and improvements to our roads has been my priority since coming into office. To arrive here today and to get anywhere, we all use roads and highways. And the worst thing about our roads and our communities are those potholes. I've asked the Navajo Department of Transportation Director Tom Platero to come up with a plan to fix potholes, and he is. In addition to building roads, NDOT is creating a systematic statistical documentation method for pothole repairs over the next quarter. The last quarter, NDOT road maintenance filled 545 potholes on N12 going north, 600 potholes on N12 going south, 955 potholes on N15. Its conservative estimate is that they fixed 2,500 potholes were filled over the last 2 months. Again, I just want to say thank you to NDOT for really taking that seriously, because potholes, there's a lot of us who travel and there's a lot of us that have tremendous issues with that. So again, thank you to Tom Platero, his leadership to making sure that those potholes are being worked on. Additionally, Navajo DOT donated 4 pallets of materials to the BIA in Fort Defiance to assist with their efforts. In collaboration with NECA last quarter, NDOT completed Bird Springs N71 projects. 6 other projects are underway. These include N35 in Sweetwater, which is 18% completed, N36 in San Juan County, which will be completed in mid-May, N7054 in Pinedale, which will be completed by July, N6461 in Denahotso, which we project construction to begin in July, N12 in Wheatfields, which will begin construction in October, and N5001 in Tonalia, 2 Gray Hills, which construction is estimated to begin in October. Getting roads built is detailed and very expensive. Director Tom Platero is working to streamline the process to get road projects from the planning to construction phases by re-examining its processes and isolating its Navajo Nation EPA compliance by outsourcing that work. This is costly. So NDOT is rebuilding its internal department with department managers so that it has the capacity to meet the needs of our communities. Within the coming months, NDOT will provide a proposal to the Navajo Nation Council requesting road maintenance yards similar to our counterparts of our counties and our state counterparts who work on roads every single day. So if we can kind of keep up with them, that it sounds like a very good proposal. In conclusion, lastly, ladies and gentlemen of this honorable body of the 25th Navajo Nation Council, our water rights teams are nearing completion on 2 water rights settlements. One is for our rights in Arizona, and the other is for our rights to the Rio San Jose, the Rio Perkin Basin in New Mexico. When legislations are before this honorable body for consideration, I humbly ask for unity through your unanimous approval of these historic agreements. Securing water is not for us, but is for the generations of Navajos yet to be born. Thank you, members of the 25th Navajo Nation Council. May you have a productive Springs 2024 session. I look forward to our continued collaboration and partnership to build a Navajo Nation we can be all proud of. Ayan kadini dole swashan and adano senigi base bahasa ana which ashna hano the quigo shit and then die this kido shaka deal was to the nen kitchida house inigi ayan kadini do balahod bidanil an hajo yade kido hajo eskishin de nisho an nehi dole ebe ayan kadini dole do tin kitahano na de.
Thank you, President, for your State of the Nation address. Colleagues, I'm going to allow a point of privilege raised by Chair James.
Here, speakers and members of the 25th Navajo Nation Council, I raised this Rule 16 point of privilege here on the floor to allow and request some time, maybe 10 minutes, to our Navajo Nation Vice President, Rochelle Montoya. If I can make that request, thank you.
Thank you, Chair James. I'm going to recognize that point of privilege. Colleagues, I'm going to put additional time of 10 minutes on the board to allow Kodo Shama, Vice President, to do your report as well.
Honorable Vince James, Speaker Curley, and the rest of the 25th Navajo Nation Council. Thank you so much for wanting to be a part of your Navajo Nation government, to listen, to be aware of all the issues and the triumphs that are happening within our Navajo Nation. Division Directors with the 25th Navajo Nation Council. Chapter officials Navajo Nation employees answering the phones, everything and anything that you have in your capacity as our Navajo Nation employees. We would like to say thank you so much for being there, coming to work every day, and being there for our Navajo people. Pastors the winter time of our people was spent going across Navajo Nation, going across the state of New Mexico, the state of Arizona, and the state of Utah in honor and in support of our student athletes, from basketball players to wrestlers to golf to cheer to dance, and then to our students with extracurricular activities from Skills USA to the different activities that you're doing. We're so proud of you, each and every one of you, and thank you so much for keeping your grades up, for listening to your parents, listening to your teachers, and the administration of your school to be able to participate in this. And it was an honor for our office for the 25th Navajo Nation Council to be present at your activities and to show support to you. And congratulations to all the champions that are out there and to all the individuals that made it to that level. It's April now. Next month we have May. We just want to say congratulations to all the graduates that are coming up from pre-K to promotions to high school to college level. I just made a visit to Utah State University in Logan, Utah. We have so many brilliant minds out there, and they are so happy to be graduating and to bring some of their knowledge back to the Navajo Nation. And so just remember that. Koro Navajo Nation Council. One young girl from Whippoorwill chapter says that when she graduates, she wants to find her job, start her career, but she also wants to vie for chapter president of her community. That is what we want to see. And I'm so glad that we show our younger generation that this is something that we still need to pursue to help guide our Navajo Nation. Our undergraduates, everybody that's out there, I want to convey on behalf of the Office of the President and Vice President, the First Lady of the Navajo Nation, this coming summer, continue to read, continue to ride horses, weave your rugs, have conversations with our elders. The neck etche, isonya bada no sendi abe yada tit ashon de shalchene, nhalchene da no lini gi hot a in hansidi kesto hot a in dan hika. Echo AA, we guide them. We let them know that there's some things that the police department cannot let them know because it's still ongoing investigation. But at this time, one of the things that they just said is they just want to know, is my family still a priority with the Navajo Nation? And on behalf of all of us here, I let them know that they are. Andi hadani tchado andi kwagi nhandel ka bedishno ebechahnaste. They extend that. One of the things that I've discussed with them and they would like to have is for support of the children that of the missing parents or of the murdered parents. They want to let the children know the best way we can on giving them the information that they need. If you speak to a 5-year-old whose mom is missing, they don't know what confidentiality means. So when we tell our young children, we can't tell you because of confidentiality reasons. We need to find a good way so that they understand that. And I know that with the divisions, departments that we have, we can come to them and let them know how we can help them and what those big words mean. Arot nasnana di kwaigi Humane Society ahut abe hanaste do ani konshinale yahazi nle Eastern Agency di Crown Point chapter. I just want to say their forethought, their Club C, their chapter officials have established a piece of land to put a animal shelter. We want to go a little bit bigger than that and work towards a humane society on Navajo Nation. And of course, that will go across Navajo Nation. We need facilities like this in all of our agencies so that it's easier access for our Navajo people. And what that means is having spay and neutering clinics in these areas, to have vaccinations in these areas. We need to give education to all of our people about the sheltering of our animals and the security of our animals. Again, we have summer coming up, and our children are going to be out there playing basketball, jogging, running, riding horses, being with grandma and grandpa on their walks. And some of our animals are not secure and so let's be aware of that, and that's the kind of education these facilities will take. And last but not least, in this area, to teach our children about love for our animals. And love will always be able to bring positivity to the care of our animals. Aro akedi e yad bahadeshnehgi edi chapter we still need coordinators for our chapters. We need administrative maintenance services officers. Basically, what that is they count it for the chapters. We need these positions filled so that the projects that are happening in our chapters can continue and to be finished. And as I go out into the communities, that is the number one thing that our chapter officials talk about is the relationship between the chapter officials and the chapter administration. And I know that with the hard work of Shiyaj Arbin Mitchell, the Director of Community Development, that is going in a good way, in a positive way, and we're listening as far as the Niagara Montoya administration to this. Just yesterday, I was at Counselor Chapter's chapter meeting, and they talked. The number one thing they talked about is our roads and how we need to take care of them and how we need to fix them. And I know that our Department of Transportation, Tom Platero, is working hard with his staff to find solutions for our Navajo people across the Navajo Nation.
Thank you, Kadoa Shama, Vice President, for your report. Colleagues, I'm going to recognize a motion and a second. Motion by Chair Nez. Is there a second? Second by Honorable Yanito. Colleagues, I'm going to go down the line of requests to speak. First, we have Honorable Tolt, 5 minutes on the board.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Speaker. Also, 25th Navajo Nation Council, though, with all due respect, I have 4 items that you probably need to look into it. Also, your report, you never include law enforcement. What is your update in law enforcement? We still need a police officer in each chapter. In my region, northern chapters are complaining there's no action in law enforcement. And they even told me to do a legislation, no confidence in law enforcement. But I know the reason why we don't have enough money and also no substation. So I kept telling them, but if they force me to do that, I will do that. But anyway, chapters. I know there's fund-wise and though police officers' response are too slow. So I try to defend your office. The other one's IHS Hospital in Crown Point, also Gallup Indian Medical Center, and others that are still with IHS. In the past, we used to have health board. Now we don't have it. So I'm going to drop a legislation to reinitiate and negotiate with the higher management so we can install, reinitiate these health board. I know area so is willing to, look into these matters. I mentioned that to her one time. The other one is proposed San Juan water rights. I believe the settlement, water rights settlement. So all they're doing right now is doing presentation throughout the chapters so skills attorney gi nha a legislation kaiton attached to liston hitaton that's also my understanding they're waiting for Arizona also. So we're just waiting for a legislation. Yesterday. Though the last one is Deltex. I've been receiving calls in my area. Again, I don't know, every year, uh, no food for elderlies. Not so center are buying foods from their center. So I mentioned that to the director, but something needs to be done. Why every year senior center runs out of funds for their food? So ideya nha not ich asche kurot abin chasido to hela kuta e nan snat isto or at yeah, at end they always on the road, so I don't hardly come out here and talk to you or come to your office. The other thing is OOC, your Mr. McCabe. A lot of our issue our LDA to habits in that ilieda to Aaron ha skisla needle some are 3-4 months in the say paper yo they jahayanaka. I know legislative office is doing their best to submit all these documents, just that the administration OOCA not socio tasi nila dano tahan so Asian Mr. McCabe jidis no halit hotat slairo to yasada hasan resignation which at the shkara zubin koshe nikela Niki LDA hoda non handaka so Anyway, Jahadis, thank you for your report, Honorable President. Thank
Koshi Hihachiche, Honorable Tulp. Next we have Kodoshija, Honorable So.
Yeah, I did. Pinant do Shmasane Kodo Vice President.
Point of order raised by Chair
Don't
James.
take for my time.
Point of order.
I raised this point of order because I thought I was next. The listing is incorrect. It's not the way it was. Sorry, Chanele, Honorable So.
He gave me his time.
It's been on RTS.
All right, Chair James, it looks like that was technical issues up here with the computer. So Shija, Honorable So, I'm gonna go back to Chair James so we can fix that. So we'll just do it manually. So Mr. Mike is keeping track down here. Goshi. Chair James, 5 minutes, and then we'll go back to Shija, Honorable So.
Thank you, speakers and members of the 25th Now Foundation Council. President, Vice President Nohlanigi. First, I'd like to get to my first question, which is in regards to Nahat Adzid Commissioner's governance. Kodo legislation in Dasil source for CJN 2922, and that was a housing manufacturing plant for Nahat Adzid and the relocatees in Sanders, Arizona. In that, it stated the law of the Navajo Nation shall be remained for this manufacturing plant to be in existence. On January 30th, you visit with Nahat Adzid chapter officials and relocatees. There, on record, you stated many times that it was up to Nahat Adzid on what they wanted to do with their 24 million. But within the 30 days after you indicated that several times, you terminated the contract with building communities for Nahat Adzid, and you gave that 24 million to Zini Home in Page or Tachi area. Even though Zini Home does not have a lease agreement in place, a proper lease agreement in place, in the legislation, it doesn't also indicate that the funding should go to that Zini manufacturing. Ako, Ada, how do you plan on addressing that issue? Ako, kodo, yego, hajo, ihilna, nesh, ihidi, ne ako. Adonana, at the same time, asto, you also reinstate, when do you plan to reinstate that contract with building communities for our relocatees? I want you to say on record, I don't want you to avoid this question. It's very important because a lot of broken promises have been made to our relocatees. They've been hurt enough, they've suffered enough, but yet we're still hurting them as of today. Okay, I really want you to say that on record on when you will reinstate that contract so they can move forward with their plans that they put together for the past several years. Adonana, my second thing that I really want you to answer on record that I don't want you to avoid is, will you be working closely with Nahat Atzil Commission Governor's officials, the staff there, and then also the relocatees? My next one is in regards to the Veterans Director's contract. We need a copy of that Veterans Director's contract. And we really need to address that matter regarding veterans. Ashonde, provide that to us. I want you to provide an answer to us on record today, this morning as well. My next one is, what is the plan? At this point, I think that grazing permit duties needs to be taken away from BIA, just like how we took the roads away from BIA, and now NDOT is operating that. If we're going to have now for people lose their job in the grazing natural resource area at BIA, then oh well be, because we have families out there that have been waiting for 10, 15 years to get their grazing permit back, and that hasn't happened. Even court orders that took place. I want you to respond what the plan is on that. Next thing, I really want to make it known that I will not tolerate any disrespect to our Navajo women, to our Navajo woman leadership. I will not tolerate that. You are the president because you selected a woman to be a vice president. That's how you are in the president's seat. Nana, as in council, last week, one of our council delegate had integrated another woman council delegate. And I want you to know that if it continues, I will bash you and I will bring you out on council floor. Please do not disrespect any woman if you're a male council delegate. You're fair warning, and I really want to move forward in a positive way. Thank you.
Chair James. Next, Kodo Shija, 5 minutes. Honorable So.
Yeah, I did. Shouldn't Sele around the Adish Masane, Vice President Montoya. Kudo Nashinto not Sosnahano, Ado Le Hida Adi Bijwans Anbatani de Do Ushten Koje Nan Nishadal Yado Nan Nish Aje the High CD Hut Anhata Nish. As part of the second quarter. The funds that you have released to the community of Tuba City in the amount of 5.2 million to build our senior citizen building in Tuba City. It took 7 years to get those funds out of Winter Rock. It went through 2 administrations. and with yours third, the third administration. And your administration executed this and got the monies out to Tuba City. And I'm really happy to report that we are in construction. The Suedo San, the Yaniki, the Panit, with the Inish timeline of construction, we have about 12 months that what we were estimated. And I'm very grateful that we got these monies out there and we have those construction dollars working out there. So I see about hits. The other is that you talked about potholes across the Navajo Nation. I think that we really have to look at the fuel excise tax. The fuel excise tax, we know that from the federal government we get road maintenance dollars, but just to maintain the roads. It's not much, but we have to start putting something to the table. And the fuel excise tax, we're planning projects, and I think that's a source of revenue that we could utilize to actually match the monies that come down from the federal government so that we can continue to fill those potholes across the Navajo Nation. My community in Tuba City, there's an area called Pothole Alley. We're looking forward for Mr. Patero to make his visit out into my region. The other is that I came to visit you a couple of days ago, and I really look forward to working with your administration to allow and have our tribal enterprises commit 30% dividend payment to the nation. I really today, as my they owe us. They owe the Navajo people, and that's somewhere that we can start. And I'm the person that will walk through with that legislation for this request and for all our enterprises. The dividend payments. The other is that there's a commitment that your office made to the second generation relocatees. And I really would like to see the mechanism of where you think you're going to identify the funds out of Arpa. We know that Arpa is all allocated based on that. So we have to rob Peter to pay Paul on Arpa. And I think that as we move forth with this discussion, we need to identify where those funding sources need to be identified from, whether it's from the executive branch or maybe funds that was given to the Department of Health that was unused, or maybe the other tribal departments that receive ARPA dollars that we may reclaw back to put forth for identifying that 50 million that was committed by your office. ARPA was all is committed that is unlegal peso. And I was wondering, how are we going to pay for this? And from the resources that are out there from the American Rescue Plan that's out there in the tribal offices, maybe somewhere the tribal programs are going to recommit those for those housing. So,
Time. Chair Jesus.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Ado Inda Adashanat Ani, President Nygren, and Madam Vice President, Ms. Montoya, and also to your division directors. First, I'd like to thank you for the report that you've provided here before the 25th Navajo Nation Council. I just have several areas, and it's been great working alongside your division directors that are under the oversight of Resources and Development Committee. I think that we've heard a lot now about the uranium mining activities from the past and how to this very day it still impacts a lot of our people in the areas that have been impacted across the Navajo Nation. And with that, the Red Rock Repository Facility that is currently planned by US EPA Region 9 to go up on a private property just on the outskirts of the Rue chapter community. A couple of weeks ago, I was at University of New Mexico Gallup branch on a Saturday where US EPA Region 9, Navajo Nation EPA staff, and we had constituents from across the Navajo Nation that had attended this uranium outreach meeting in regards to the Red Rock Repository Facility in Thoreau, New Mexico. And their executive director, Mr. Leonard Sosi, had mentioned that there is an Ambrosia Lake located in Grants, New Mexico. As we all have heard to this point as leadership, our constituents that live in the area of Thoreau or even the proximity vicinity of Thoreau chapter, they don't want any waste to be located there on private property. So President, I am asking to have you support Resources and Development Committee in considering Ambrosia Lake in Grants, New Mexico to be a priority of where this waste from Church Rock mines to be hauled to, again, for the safety of our people. Second is the SSBCI funds that came from United States Treasury in regards to a small revolving loan for our Navajo entrepreneurs here on Navajo Nation. One of the things that I'm really concerned about at this point is the Division of Economic Development still has not shared a rollout information in regards to this SSBCI to convey information to our artisan and small businesses from step one to closeout of a application submission. Again, this information hasn't been shared in any type of a media platform. And again, these are for our artisans and small businesses. And with on the same topic in regard to small businesses, President, also I'm pleading with you that we give some sort of a business site lease outstanding rent relief to our business people that have business site leases here on Navajo Nation. I think that we had recommended 3 years, meaning March 2020 to March 2022, to give them that relief or give credit to some of the businesses that still had made those obligation payments, again, to show that this pandemic had happened and that we are here as leadership and yourself as leadership, that we want to be business friendly to our businesses here on Navajo Nation. And in closing, also, President, I also wanted to mention that our employees of the Navajo Nation are very important assets. Every inch of them should be valued, their recommendation and their input. I will continue to advocate for the Navajo Nation employees. They should not be reassigned if consultation has not been done with the employee or the immediate supervisor. There is a chain of command that needs to be followed. So Ashonda, President, please re-educate your division directors on what chain of command means in an upper management operation. It is very important right now. It is hard to fill these positions as we've have heard, and we don't want to lose any more asset to this governmental operation. So again, I plead with you again, President Nygren, as I had brought this issue to you during the fall, winter session as well. So Ani, and thank you to all your division directors and Madam Vice President. I waive the rest of my time, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Chair Jesus. Next, we have Chair Eugenia Charles Newton.
Thank you, Speaker. So I've got 4 questions. Number 1 is I want to know, President Nygren, what your hierarchy is. Specifically, what I want to know is when you leave the Navajo Nation, is the Vice President in charge? I ask this question because I have heard on countless occasions the disrespect that you and your administration is showing to the Vice President.
As Speaker James, I'm sorry, Chair James stated, I too will not tolerate this type of behavior. And I will call you out on this. We have waited and we have asked on multiple occasions, what is the responsibility of the Vice President? What issues is she addressing? And we have yet to receive an answer. At one time, I was told that she would be heading up the chapter issues, and then she was no longer a part of that. How are you including her in the decisions that you are making? And I ask about the hierarchy because we received a memo from your office that listed the hierarchy as you, Patrick Sandoval coming up next, Bita Becker after him, and then Ulray Nelson. And we have questioned, where is the Vice President in this hierarchy? Number two, Vice President Montoya, what is your responsibility in this administration? What issues are you tackling on behalf of this administration? I bring this to the attention of both of you because we have seen and heard, and there have been reports of increased violence happening at our chapter houses. And I have asked this administration to intervene with no response. As such, the Law and Order Committee will be addressing this issue, and I hope that you can send a representative to hear that matter. We cannot continue to ignore what is happening. Our people are getting frustrated. They're not getting the answers that they deserve. And we should not be resorting to violence, but we are starting to see an increase happening at chapter meetings. The chapters fall under the executive branch. By President Nygren, I beg you to please stop traveling and address these issues here on the nation. We cannot afford to lose one life because of the issues that we're not talking about. And they are uncomfortable and they put us in a bad light, but that is the reason why we stood up to say we want to be leaders in our community and leaders for our nation and leaders for our Navajo people. I also want to state that our disabled and deaf relatives are still continuing to be ignored by your administration. We recently debated a legislation to give more funding to the election office, and we continue to hear that our disabled and deaf relatives, which include our elders and our veterans, over half of our population here on the Navajo Nation who do not have access to voting, they do not have access to public buildings, and they do not have access to services that we should be providing to them. So what are your plans for addressing this matter? I reserve my time, Speaker.
Reserve time of 103. Again, to our relatives in the audience, please hold your applause until the completions of the reports. Next, we have Chair Crotty, 5 minutes to the report.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Shadeja. Appreciate it. Appreciate the report. President Chiajto, Shadeja, Vice President Montoya. Want to just thank the administration for the support on today's walk and for Vice President holding up our banner and making sure that anyone who has experienced any type of sexual assault, that their voices are heard and that we want for them today. President, Vice President, I just want to bring some areas that we would need future discussion and dialogue in this spring season. We do have a federal House bill 7826 to amend the Omnibus Crime Control and Safe Streets Act of 1968 with the respect to certain grants authorized for Edward Bryan Memorial Justice Assistant Grant Program. Some of this funding is used by our judicial branch to help with our missing and murdered Diné relatives. This is a flexible grant, and so we would need to support some initiatives to enhance how we could use those grants on the Navajo Nation to bridge the gap in terms of services and support to families. In addition, we would need the help from the Washington office to get ready for the Federal Commission's public hearing on the missing persons alert that has been suggested and recommended by the Not Invisible Act Commission. And so the FCC is looking to have comments. And so we would need to work together to understand what is the unique challenges of Navajo Nation, how that would cross-reference with our current Amber Alert and community alerts through our Department of Emergency Management, and then working with the emergency FirstNet service. What we don't want to do is to either duplicate or not enhance where some of these areas, some of the areas that are either have black communication levels or gray, where we don't have the communication that we need, and so we would need to build that into our response. As I mentioned, other areas where we could continue to coordinate and increase our working relationship through the Missing and Murdered and Their Relatives Task Force is the Arizona committee. I sit on the governor's MMIP task force with First Lady Blackwater Nygren. And so in my committee is the policy committee. And what we're looking at is in January, there was the Arizona State, there's going to be a subcommittee to look at missing children in the state system. We've talked about ICWA and our children who are in the state system. We would need to know, President and Vice President, working with your team, how these ICWA cases are being monitored and if all of our children are accounted for. And working with other tribal nations, we're asking them if they're part of the 1,000 missing children in the Arizona state system. What I want to start ending off with is with the state of New Mexico. We had, through the state task force, created a state response. We still need a state response from the state of New Mexico on Operation Rainbow Bridge. Our relatives who were targeted in the border towns, particularly in Gallup, New Mexico, whether or not they were New Mexico citizens, the state of New Mexico should have a plan and how they plan to proceed and enhance services. Earlier, I introduced the AUSA attorney, Elliot Neal, who's helping on the federal side with all of these cases. But as we dive down, what additional resources do we need at Navajo Nation? We'll need to come together and have an advocacy plan for Navajo Nation. We have community-based advocates like Utah Navajo or Victim Services of Northern Arizona, Adabi, battered families. And then we also have what we're calling system-based. And so that would be the Office of the Prosecutor, looking at Department of Social Services, if they still have their advocates with Family Harmony Program, or looking at PD or CIs if they're going to incorporate advocates, because in the last federal bill, it was decreased by 50%. So federal funds are decreasing. So what's the plan for Navajo Nation? And with this council and with your leadership, we could start looking at a set aside for advocates so that they'll never be in jeopardy of losing their funding. Thank you, President and Vice President.
Thank you, Chair Crotty, for those questions. I'm going to return the floor back over to President and Vice President for the responses.
Biga, Ado Atsanaides, Kidige, Mr. Honorable George Toth. Thank you. Ado, again, when it comes to our law enforcement, I really want to continue to make sure that we're working on that. One of the things I actually want to do is probably get an update personally. I know I want to involve you and Honorable Chair Eugenia Charles Newton as well to really find out what are some of the issues and some of the challenges and how do I need to get involved at that level. Because I know, like you said, I know I've met with Honorable Chair Eugenia Charles Newton on many occasions on how do we fund those substations, the police stations out in Shiprock and in Winderock and the Delcon. I know we're doing what we can to try to figure out how to fund facilities like that, but at the same time I know even the last class, we only had 7 new recruits, right? Out of a recruit, it should be 20, 30, or 40, 50 people graduating every 6 months or something to really try to maintain some of those numbers. But again, that's one of those things. I know I campaigned on safer communities. You know, that's one of those things I haven't actually figured out or developed solutions on it to. Again, it really, I'll make a commitment to you and Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton is maybe we do a weekly. Like I meet with BNF a lot on some of the issues and challenges that's facing that committee, but maybe it's a weekly thing that we do, maybe right before your meeting, the Law and Order Committee meeting. Maybe we spend at least an hour going through some of those priorities. I can bring in the directors as well to see what we can come up with. So again, I wish I had a solid answer for you, but I don't have an answer for you. So again, we'll definitely figure out how we can improve some of those scenarios, because right now I know public safety is doing the very best. You know, even they do what they can, they work with what they can, and again, nothing to our firefighters, our first responders, our public safety officers, and all the administrators up and down. I know a lot of them they benefited the most when council passed that the vacation time and they were actually paid out. So I really helped them out. So I know that we're doing what we can to try to figure out how we can support them and help them. But when it comes to that, I just want to let you know that we're looking forward to your guidance as well. I know, as I mentioned before, I know the committee members here as well. I go to every agency council meeting. I get torn up by all the chapter officials. I get torn up by all the community members. If the sun don't come up, it's the nomination president's fault. So that's how I see it. And I really try to take it with a grain of salt and not get it too personal, because I know the challenges ahead are greater than all of us. The only way we can support one another is to help and support one another, because so again, I just want to say thank you for that question. I know public safety is definitely one of those things where it's just as mentioned, there's things like even getting payment figured out. Took 3 administrations to figure out for auto so I know that's a bigger problem, right? Public safety. So I know that with our mindset, with us collectively working on it, we can come up with some solutions. And then when it comes to IHS, the updates for Crown Point and Gallup, I know that the Gallup Indian Medical Center, we're still trying to finalize that location. As of today, I know I'm waiting on some reports to actually make a decision on where we should put it. I know that there's options of Gamerco, there's Rehoboth, and other areas that people have been advocating for, but we can definitely look into that as we continue. It is a high priority, because I don't want Phoenix Indian Center, nothing against through Phoenix Medical Center, Indian Medical Center, to start before us. So if we can really get ahead of the game and actually get that going before all of those ones. The other solution that was brought to me was, why can't we start with some of the housing? A lot of the existing facilities need housing, especially the Gallup and the current Indian facility there needs a lot of housing. So maybe, because housing doesn't cost as much as the $1 billion healthcare facility that we're asking for, but housing is in the hundreds of millions of dollars. Maybe there's that option that has kind of been talked to me about. So there's different avenues that we're trying to review. But when it comes to Crown Point, I don't have an answer for you, but I'll definitely get an answer over to you, because I haven't really been involved with the IHS Crown Point facility. But if I can get an update from Director Russell as well, I'll keep you in the loop. But again, just really trying to take advantage of the possibilities, right? As you mentioned earlier, Director So, when's the next, we can't guarantee that she's going to be there next year, but we can guarantee that she'll be there all the way through the end of the year and the first part of January. While she's in that position, you're right, let's continue to keep knocking on that door and really working with that relationship and that connection that we have with Director So. And then the proposed water rights, as mentioned in the State of the Nation, I'm all for it. I'm glad that you guys were ahead of the game and you guys got a lot of your documents ready to go. Looking forward to all the water right legislation that go before us, because now's the time. I know that council and the leadership that has been meeting, they really want to try to get something out the door first part of May. And then we got the hard work ahead of us. I know some of us have been in DC recently, but to really try to get that across the table out in DC is going to be challenging too, because it costs money. And all of us know in this room that Congress and everybody always, just like the same scenarios that you guys have on a day-to-day basis, is how are we going to pay for it? As Otto always mentions, who are we going to have to take money from to pay for some of these things? And then the other thing I mentioned too is I didn't mention in my report, is the Navajo Gallup water supply. That's going to set to expire by December. So that one, I know the Washington office, I know that DOJ and everybody's really trying to make sure that we get those amendments across the table, because if that doesn't get funded, what does that mean to our New Mexico water rights that was settled? Does that mean it's no longer there? Is it voided? Is it still happening? So that timeline that we're thinking about when it comes to water rights in your area, New Mexico, definitely we are trying to make sure that we do something about it. The question I got about Gallup water supply too is, how are we going to fund it? Where's this 600 to 800 million that you're talking about going to come from to get that water line completed? So again, I'm glad that you're thinking about water rights, water lines, and getting these major transmission water lines completed as well. So yeah, to Honorable Toth, and then to your question on Daltex, you know what? Let's do the same thing, because I hear one thing and I hear the other thing. I know that when I was campaigning, they said the same thing. They said the same thing 4 years ago. So I think that it's one of those things similar to the veterans. I haven't really, my train of thought was really, there's only so many meetings I can attend. And it's tough that I can never meet with you, but you'll notice that I'm in my office 4 out of 5 days out of the week. Most of the time I'm here for 2 to 3 weeks at a time. So again, I just want to figure out how can we come together to really address the Daltex situation. Maybe it's going to be the same thing as public safety. It's going to cost some money. Maybe there's a trust fund. Maybe we increase the fund for Daltex, or what can we do to really help our elders? So again, I'm going to lean on Director Russell, who's in this room, to schedule those meetings. Maybe it's right before HESI. We meet with some of that committee and really just focus in on that. Why are we having that problem? And let's get to the root cause of that problem. That way, you and I can honestly answer to those employees that reach deep down into their pockets, who barely make $8 an hour, $9 an hour, and they're providing food to their elders because they have a heart. Because I don't want to keep doing that to them. So again, those are the 2 meetings that I want to try to work on, because that's a problem. If we fix that, that's one less thing that people will continue to ask us about. But then there's probably 10 other things that they're going to want us to address. And I think that's what's good about being a leader. We have an endless possibilities of problems that we're trying to solve every day. And the best way to do it is wake up every day with the good mindset and tackle one if we can during that day. Knowing that tomorrow, if we're given a chance, let's get back up and do it again. So again, I want to say thank you to Honorable George Toth for bringing that up. And let me see, my iPad locked up. Let's see, 12, 23, 24. Okay, so, and then LDAs, it's very disheartening to know that people haven't been paid to. Again, we'll get with the controller and figure out what's the problem, because I've had that scenario in my office too. And when we had employees that weren't paid for a while, and it took a lot, because what happens when you try to do back pay, that's like pulling teeth. It's like almost act of God to get them back payment. So I really don't want to put them in that scenario. I know Vice President's smiling, because it's almost an act of God to get people repaid for months and months of services that they did helping the people. So again, we'll look into that. So 3 to 4 months, yeah, it's going to be tough to try to get them repaid. But just reassure them, we've done it before. We'll get it done, and we'll make sure that it doesn't happen again. Maybe we got to bring Debbie and her crew to come in and figure out some of the scenarios that happened to really what caused this problem. So again, so I'm going to move on to Honorable James. I know when it comes to on the record, I know that when it comes to that, the building communities, the $1.5 million for the study, to draft the study for the manufacturing facility. I know that with some of your colleagues as well, with their guidance and really evaluating what does that mean. And so we were able to review that with DOJ and the parties as well to make sure that we said, why should we pay $1.5 million for a study? And if I want to hear your position on paper too, on why you support that. A few of your colleagues really gave it to me on why why are we paying $1.5 million for a study? But if you think that's a great idea, and you think that we'll have a meeting with some of the other your other colleagues, and let's talk about it. And I want to hear your pitch on why you believe $1.5 million for a piece of paper for a study is a good way to go. So again, I just want to put that. I just want to have that discussion with you and some of your colleagues if you want to have that discussion. But again, it's already gone through DOJ. That contract is no longer sufficient. And one of the things that we're trying to do is that the 1,200, I think it was like $1 million that's left, whatever. So far, we've paid at least $500,000 on some of their meetings and outreach and things like that. The money that's left over, we said we want to put that back into housing, directly help the community. So that's the strategy that we use. But if you believe that the million shouldn't go into directly giving funding or repairs to those community members, let's have that discussion. So again, I try to take everything with a grain of salt, and I hear all sorts of things everywhere, but I really just want to make sure that we're all on the same page, and I'd love to get you on the same page as well. And we'll bring DOJ in as well to really go through that contract and some of the questions and comments and things that kind of came up out of that discussion, so we can fully brief you as well. And then when it comes to Nahatadzil, yes, I did go out there. You know, they had a whole community meeting, and my commitment, as Otto So mentioned earlier, that I still want to do that 50 million. Where we're going to get that 50 million is that's where we got to work with the council to figure out how do we fund it. And I know one of the options at the time was maybe if there's talks or if there's scenarios of projects that might not get fixed, maybe we use some of those funding to actually invest in it, because we've never really invested directly into it as well. So that's one of the things we're working on. Again, Nahatadzil was selected as one of the locations. I know if we divvied up all the money, it was going to be about $6 million to try to figure out. To me, $6 million to build a factory in Nahatadzil was very tough to do. So again, when it comes to factories, it's if you want to be efficient, effective, and affordable, and if you want it to get it done long term, you got to look at those scenarios as well. And I know I had to take the tough position on that. But one of the things I did say is, you know what, when these factories are up and running, make sure Nahatadzil is at the forefront and make sure that they get the best pricing. And that's what I'm going to stand on, is that making sure that when it comes to manufacturing homes or modular homes for that community, I'm going to make sure that they can get even a mobile home trailer would be too expensive for them. So that was my commitment to Nahatadzil, and really trying to make sure we do that, because end of the day, one of the things I think about is I just want homes built. I don't really care who's building them. All I care about is the cost of the homes, the quality of the homes. I want to build as many homes as possible and make sure the quality is good. Because if you go the opposite route, you're going to have a lot of homes that are going to be falling apart in 5-10 years. And I don't want to be known for the president that built homes that fell apart in 5 or 10 years. And that's where I'm really investing in it. They're not going to come back and say it's Vince James' fault, it's Boo Nygren's fault. I'm very, I just want to make sure, out of respect, Mr. Vince James, that I want to do a briefing on you, briefing with you, with DOJ and the team to really outline it as well. And my commitment's been the same. I've been trying to get back out there, but it's just my schedule is very tough to nail down. And sometimes there's other people that we have to kick out, or I know they've come to my office, and then there's other community members that are meeting with me. So as president, it's like, do I kick these community members out and bring on the next one? And so those are the tough decisions of my daily life that I wish there was a few more of me. I wish there was 5 or 10 of me that we can really try to make those meetings as well. And sometimes people say, you know what, we don't want to mess with the middleman, either the deputy chief of staff or the chief of staff. We don't want to look at them or even work with them, because they want to sit down and talk with the president. And sometimes it's hard to tell them, you know, as a president, as same thing with you, you get a lot of constituents that visit with you, but then there's people that actually get it done. And that's how in my scenario. So again, really just trying to work on that. And then when it comes to that, I just want to let you know on record that I just can't reinstate that contract, because we're going to have to issue them a new contract if you convince me, and the committee and the people and some of your colleagues as well. But at the same time, when it comes to our veterans director, their contract, be more than happy to send it to you. There's nothing to hide on it. All I know is that the contract that was written really makes it tough for her. It's not really It's one of the things I wish it would be is that she should be more of like all the other division directors. Maybe that's what you can do when you evaluate it. Because I've reviewed it a few times, and I'm like, man, if I was a veteran and I was a woman and I was every day I have veterans getting upset at me and yelling at me, this is not really in the best interest of her. So maybe what you can do and help is maybe we undo that contract and really rework it to where it benefits her and benefits the Veterans Administration, and really look at that. So I'm more than open to do that. So I'll send it to you, because it's one of those contracts where I feel very guilty when every time I feel sad that she actually signed that contract, because it doesn't really help her and her family, and at the same time doesn't really set her up the way she should be set up. So again, I'll send that over to you, and let's really come up with a solution to really help Bobby. She's the first woman veterans director. You know what I mean? Every single day she gets yelled at, called at, people are quitting, and all the scenarios. And I'm glad that you voice strongly, and that's one of the people I really want you to help, since you made that commitment that you're going to fight for our women leaders. And that's one woman leader that needs your help, needs your support, needs your advocacy, because every day our veteran men are coming into her, telling her, don't lead her, don't listen. So I'm glad that you're going to take that stance and really help Bobby and Director Baldwin. So thank you so much for making that commitment as well. The other thing I think about too is disrespect of our women leaders. 75 to 80% of my cabinet is all women. Everybody that advised me is all women. So all these decisions that I'm making is all women. And then when it comes to our vice president, I'm not going to force her to go to all my meetings. To me, that's real disrespectful. Don't be going to the chapters. Don't be going out to the community. Don't be doing this. I don't want you traveling, meeting with all these other state dignitaries and stuff like that. If I tell her, to me, that's very disrespectful. I'm not going to make that move. If you expect me to force the vice president to sit in all my meetings, to sit in all my decisions, and avoid some of her priorities, I will not do that, because to me, she's her own person. She was elected the vice president of Navajo Nation, and she's working on the animals that she mentioned. If you listen to the report in January, she really wants to try to push animal care, animal shelter, veterinarians. She really wants to try to push customer service on the Navajo Nation. I don't know anything about chapters. Most of the time, she's out meeting with our chapters. So if you want me to rescind a lot of that, let me know. But again, you'll hear from her in a little bit, because a lot of this discussions that we're talking about is a little but you'll hear from her as well. But as president, I don't want to do that. But if you want me to do it and it'll make you happy, I still don't think I want to do that. But again, end of the day, it's what you see and what you hear. To me, I feel like we're doing we're partnering good. She's got her strengths. I've got my strengths. At the end of the day, we have division director meetings on a monthly basis, and she's on all the staff meetings. She's got her priorities, and I made it very clear to all my staff, anything that's on the website with my priorities, we will put all the efforts into it. Whether it's a receptionist that's got a great idea on how to improve customer service, or whether it's the president of the Navajo Nation wants to do this, or the vice president, we align behind all those priorities and we put resources in place. So again, if that's happening, again, let me know. Let's bring them all in and let's have that discussion, because I've got priorities that are set in stone that I told the people 2 years ago, these are the things that we're going to accomplish. You hold me against them. You must stand back in front of me and say, hey, did you get this accomplished? Did you do this? Did you do that? So all of us in here are working towards that. I know, and when I hear a lot of this, again, 75 to 80% of my team is all women. So then most of the people that I take a lot of guidance. I meet with Speaker Curley all the time. I meet with a lot of the honorable delegates in here. I say out of the delegates, I think I meet with majority of the women delegates in here. And most of the time I'll be honored to speak with some of the male delegates. But again, I don't want to put it in that scenario of trying to put it in that context, because it just makes it weird and difficult and makes things so again, to me, our main focus, how do we improve our nation? How do we improve services? And the things that you've told me, those are some of the things that I really look forward to working on, because again, your last comment on here to merely make sure that I'm very happy, because I know one woman that really needs help and it's going to be Bobby Ann Baldwin. I'm very happy you're going to get in there and lift her up and strengthen her. And really, you should go to some of those meetings and see what some of the male veterans do say to her. And to me, when I go to those meetings, I have no tolerance on that. And so again, I just want to say thank you, Mr. Honorable Vince James. Moving on to Auto Show. I think when it comes to senior center, sorry, I know you wanted it done in 1 year, but no, it took 3 months. Huh? I signed it and then it took 3 months to get it done. So we do what we can to work with you, Honorable Show. But again, thank you for visiting with me and kind of letting me know a lot of your issues ahead of time so that I can address them and really push your initiatives forward as well. And then your idea about fuel access and try to fund those with the potholes. I think that's a great idea. It's anything we can do, practical things that Navajo people care about. That's what I try to tell my team. Just worry about the normal things that people care about. How do we address some of those? And then from there, let's worry about the big issues. Let's worry about the big projects. So again, thank you for thinking about that. Tom, you got that call. Where's Tom Platero? Where are you sitting at, Yarizli? So you got to get out to Tuba City, Tom. All right, right there. He's gonna be the next Tuba City man. Nobody's hanging out over here on this side, okay? The other thing are tribal enterprises, our dividends, and that's been my statement since the very first State of the Navajo Nation last January. I don't know when I went before you. Is how do we support? I don't want to just be adversary. We'll support our enterprises, but in return, let's make sure that they deliver some sort of dividends. Because one of the things I really want to see 10 years from now, 20 years from now, just imagine if we got 100 million to 300 million a year back from our dividends and really support some of our programs. So I'm glad you're thinking about it. I'd be more than happy to sit down. I know Madam AG has been working on that, and I think a few of the other delegates within the budget and finance, and I know Shauna and Brenda have thought about it as well. So let's really put some thought to it and figure out how can we do that as well. So again, thank you, Honorable So, for thinking about how do we continue to generate revenue, because that's all of us's job in here, because we can't continue to expect the federal government to give us money that they're never going to give us. They're never going to give us more increases. They're never going to do all these things. But one of the things we can do is continue to work with them, partner with them, respect them. But on our end, the things that we control, all of us in here, including myself, the vice president, every one of the delegates in here, we're moms and dads to the entire Navajo Nation. And how do we bring resources back to them? So that, is it through revenue generation? Is it through taxes? Is it through setting up enterprises? All these things so that we can pay for the parks, we pay for the schools, we can pay for the public safety. Because even last year, a couple thousand Navajo people, you brought it up to me, that were turned away from Chief Manuelito because there wasn't enough money. So money really drives how we can be effective leaders. So as moms and dads of the Navajo Nation, let's continue to always focus on how do we do that? How do we continue to make more money so that we can make a better environment for our Navajo people? So thank you for that. And then as mentioned, the 50 million. And that was my commitment to them, because this year's their 50-year anniversary. This summer is going to be 50 years. And my hope and my aspiration was, man, what if we got that done? And that's when I met with them. When I met with them, I said, you know, it's going to take all of us. It's going to take my office. It's going to take the Navajo Nation Council. It's going to take the commission. Let's come up with some creative solutions on how do we find that money? Is it through the reallocation? Is it through borrowing some money? Or what can we do so that those people feel like they're not forgotten? Because I know Levon Sosi over there, she takes me on numerous tours, and I've met with a lot of people that make me cry all the time. So again, really trying to figure out how do we find that money. And so maybe that's one of the things we do is this is a commitment that I want to make is by summertime, let's have a strong answer and a strong plan. Maybe I just meet with the commission directly and really try to bring DOJ and some of the others so that we can just focus in on that 50 million. How do we make it happen so that we can establish that fund as well? So again, thank you, Honorable Otto So, for your leadership, your foresight, your dedication. And then let me drink some water. And then Chairwoman Jesus, thank you so much. I always enjoy our meetings and everything that you bring to me, and even the emails. That's where, and the texts, and really want to say thank you for that as well. Because when I do get a text from a fellow delegate, that's when I'm really like, hey, you know what is going on here? And we always make sure that we try to address your problems as soon as possible. So when it comes to division directors, respect. I want to continue to bring that up. I think I was briefed on the scenario that you were talking about. I think one of the things I want to do is maybe bring you, the director, and that individual, and just really talk through it, just to have a really a small talking circle and see what we can do to address those concerns, so that that person feels like maybe we come out of that meeting and she'd be like, okay, I didn't know that this was the plan or the purpose. Now I'm more excited. Maybe there was just some of that misinformation on what was the reassignment about. But again, I haven't had that meeting, but I'll be open to scheduling that meeting with you so that we can talk into that in great extent. And then when it comes to uranium loading and transportation, I think that it's just, when it comes to the Red Rock one, I don't know too much about it, but all I do know is that a lot of the community members don't want it just right next door. They want it further away, and I can hear their frustrations as well. So if we can figure out to come up with, but then it costs a lot more money to haul it away. So then that's where people say, well, if you guys want to haul it over there, then you guys pay for it. And so there's those discussions as well. So I think that just with the group, when it comes to uranium cleanup, I'm glad that this whole thing is being talked about. So maybe there's a more in-depth discussion on really coming up with strong plans, and that's what I really want to encourage. I know Mr. Perry. Mr. Perry is my volunteer representative on my behalf in my office as well, working along with Mr. at City. So let me get you an update as well, because I don't know exactly how we can help you at the moment. But definitely, I do agree with some of the sentiments that were shared with me. And then when it comes to SSBCI, just last week, I finally signed the federal documents. The federal documents came on by, and actually the first 29 million should be hitting our accounts very soon. So I know that was the first part. We were waiting on those documents from the federal government. So I've signed those documents. They're back that way. And now we're waiting on that first part of the money. But the question you ask is really making sure that now that we know the money's coming this way, that let's make sure we're prepared to launch it. And so again, I believe Tony Skrlanis and Change Labs, and I'm going to make sure you're there as well. And so we have that rollout pre-meeting. And so I want you to be at that discussion as well. I think it's going to happen next week. I believe it's next week. So we'll definitely keeping the loop for that. The rent, I know that last year I made a statement at the Economic Summit Conference that we really want to get rent relief for Navajo business owners dating 3 years back. And I think one of the struggles that we've had is that they got to do it case by case. And what I was told by a few people in Division of Economic Development is that they probably need an executive order that really tells them that you shouldn't be going case by case and going through the 164 process. What can we do to keep it at a division level so that they can award those rent reliefs for these business owners? So again, I think that meeting is forthcoming. I know that we recently hired a new real estate director. I think Audrey So as well. I think some of you might know her. She was the former assistant to the First Lady, and then she had other ambitions to really try to be more effective. So now she's the real estate director as well too. So again, we'll work on that to come up with that solution. Because the conference is coming up. I'm on a timeline too. Because if I show up at that conference, and then you told us we're going to do rent reliefs and nothing's happened. I'm going to really make sure that we go on that one. When it comes to our employees, as I mentioned earlier, it's just when you got well over 5,000 people, everybody thinks different. Everybody works at different paces, and really just trying to figure out how do we continue to work and advocate and make sure everybody's happy. One of the questions I ask weekly is employee happiness. What are you doing for your employees? What are you doing? I know that some of them, they do walks, some of them do mindfulness, some of them just sits down with their employees and they talk, but not everybody is working at that level as well too. So again, and some of them, even the vice president can attest them. She calls them, and some of them are very rude. Some of them are very good, and then some of them are very rude. So we're working on. I think I'm hoping the customer service training that we're really trying to launch. I know that VP and Debbie, they're really trying to figure out, because I made that commitment in January that we're going to really roll that out. So I know that I think Debbie and I don't know when the meetings are coming up to really meet with some of these customer happy people that really have launched customer service for big organizations like the Navajo Nation. So again, really looking, I think Debbie and VP can get us an update on customer service maybe within the next 2 weeks on what they're rolling out as well. So again, I just want to say thank you on that part. Customer service is definitely, I know VP does the phone calls, but I'm too chicken to call one of our departments because I might get hung up on. So unless I say there's the president, better answer. Dave. But again, thank you for VP for always doing those spot checks with all of our departments. And then when it comes to my sister, Chairwoman ECN, thank you. I had a wonderful trip to Seattle to really try to figure out how can we get some of that financing and some of those fundings and really try to figure out how can we build those facilities out. So it was good to spend some time with you away from the other meetings that we usually have. So again, thank you for that. And then again, I'll have the Vice President respond here in a little bit on some of this hearsay and Jeanette. But when it comes to the hierarchy, right? When I leave, most of the time, I just want to make sure it's at the level of the people that are moving things forward. You know what I mean? So if like the next in a week or two, I actually won't. When I'm in the States, I'm usually gone. Anytime I travel, I take red eyes. I try to be back within. I'll leave at night, go do my business, and then I'm back the very next. So I try to stay, for like a good example, if I leave Window Rock Tuesday evening, I'll do my meetings in DC if I have to, and I try to be back in Window Rock that Thursday. So again, that's when I usually feel like I don't really need signatory authority because I want to make sure that whatever I sign, it's my fault. You know what I mean? So that's where but there is going to be a scenario very soon to where obviously the Vice President will be in charge of a lot of the things that will be signed out. So that's very soon, but usually I'm gone about a day. I try to keep it to that amount because to me, I don't want to be on the newspapers. Oh, the president spent 1 week just going to meetings and messing around and he's doing the weekend somewhere else. And what's he doing out there for that? So I try not to, I don't want to be in that category. I try to keep it to about a day and a half and be back in my business. So again, it's rough on me, but also at the same time, I try to make sure that I'm here in Window Rock. So again, if you all this travel talk, maybe I do release my travel schedule. If we can all release our travel schedules, I think that'd be good too as well, because I'm in the office a lot. So I think I hear it from everybody. This is the only Navajo Nation president that loves to be in the office because I love reading the documents. I love looking at it. I love criticizing, and I love making sure that I send people back down the hallway and say, hey, go work on this. So again, so let's maybe we do that. I think if we're talking about travel, if you all can, if we can all issue all our travel reports and where we've been and where we go, I'll be more than happy to submit mine as well, because mine's pretty in the office most of the time. It's kind of boring. Maybe I do need to get out more often, but we'll work on that. But again, I'll get criticized for that too. If what's he doing, just traveling and going over here? We put you in Window Rock to go fix the problems. Why are you avoiding Window Rock? So then I'll get that criticism as well. So that's just part of being a leader. I think a lot of you that are returning delegates, a lot of you that are new delegates, that's something that we've all learned to just go with. It's just part of the job. We just get criticized and clothes that might not fit us, people try to put them in there. So again, it's just one of those things where I don't know what to say about my travel, but again, I'll be more than happy to share my travel if we all share our travel. My handwriting's getting, I have to cheat off the VP. Oh, the disability. That one, I know that when it comes to our facilities, Sean Avondale is finally rolling that out. Even though it's only $13.5 million, he's rolling that out to try to at least start upgrading some of those facilities. I did get the concern. I know that Shar and Yolanda Azuzo were in my office really trying to tell me right before election, President, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? There's a lot of people that still have issues of voting. And I was like, well, first and foremost, elections not under my purview. And secondly, if they want the to fix these scenarios is going to cost money. And I think that's where I would challenge people that how do we figure out how to upgrade not all these voting places, and it's going to cost some money to fix and upgrade and make sure it's accessible. So I'll be more than happy to sign a piece of legislation that says we're going to get all these voting places upgraded and fixed, and we're going to make it a priority. Not sure what it's going to cost. It might cost $5 million. It might cost $20 million. But if making sure that people have access to voting, let's do it. Let's find 20 million. I know I'm still trying to find 50 million for the relocatees, but if we can find 20 million to really do those ADA upgrades just for voting locations, I think we should really entertain that too as well. So again, I'd be more than happy to sign your legislation when it comes to those upgrades as well. I know that Yolanda has really been in talks with Debbie to try to figure out how do we continue to hire people that have some really trying not to make sure that we don't hire people that have some issues as well. So again, I know that Debbie is supposed to give me a report on people who she's hired over the last year, because I know when I met with them, you brought them into my office, and the goal was to hire at least one person. And I'm hoping that at least that one person has been hired to really help move our nation forward as well. So again, thank you, Chairwoman. And then when it comes to our chapter officials, you know what I mean? I hear it from everything, you know what I mean? I have been to the Shiprock chapter. I've got my earful on some of the issues that they're having outside of their boundaries. And then I go out into the community. I hear about it as well. But I think that's where we can definitely have that discussion. I really want to have that discussion to really try to, end of the day, all I care about is the people in the Shiprock community and their safety. So if their safety is being in jeopardy, let's have those discussions to figure out how to help them feel like they want to go to the chapter house, or help them with some of their challenges. So again, definitely will be open to meeting with you, the chapter officials, and really come together. Maybe we do a more of a neutral grounds. Maybe we bring them here to Window Rock and have that open discussion to figure out what can we do to really move the Shiprock community forward. So definitely open to that, Chairwoman. Just chapter violence in general, I know I've heard about another scenario out in Eastern Navajo as well, and really trying to task, I think Thomas Cody was involved, and I think AG was involved in the scenario that happened out in Western Navajo. So I think we just got to use that as well and really try to figure out how do we work with our chapters, because there's always issues that we're having with violence, and even with all this money that people are talking about, because people are getting homes that shouldn't be getting homes, and the community members are getting upset about it, and bathroom additions that people shouldn't be getting are getting bathroom additions. So again, when it comes to that, really just trying to do what we can. Again, I look to your leadership too, Chairwoman. You're very seasoned. You've been doing this for a little bit, and I really want to figure out how can we actually get people on. I know everybody's not going to be happy, but I'm willing to just, if I want to be the fall guy, I'll be the fall guy for the team, which is fine with me as long as we help the community of Shiprock as well. So again, thank you, Chairwoman. And then Shema, Honorable Chairwoman Amber Knusba-Karate, thank you. It's always good to meet with you and really fight for our people that are victims of crime and things like that. I know one of the things we accomplished is really trying to help Utah Navajo Health System. I'm glad that you and I and AG was willing to get it done as well. So again, I know the funding has constantly been decreasing, and trying to get those fundings over to them is always a challenge. But again, that's one of those scenarios where I know that I made that commitment and we really worked on, because there's a lot of people over there trying to fight and advocate for people at Adabi and some of those women shelters as well. So I'm glad that you're always in my office and you bring a lot of ideas to where I always feel like it's your ideas. All I do is I sign off on them and then we get going. And I think that's what really makes it effective too, is as the honorable 25th Navajo Nation Council, a lot of these solutions, you guys have those solutions. And I noticed that even like Dr. Andy Nez, he's he's always bringing in legislations that he's crafted, he's worked on, and he's getting across the table, and people are getting funding. And I'm always at the very end just putting my name on it. But I know champions like Honorable Dr. Andy Nez has worked on it, or they'll have a pre-meeting when we help like the St. Michael's people with issues that he brought them into my office and say, hey, would you support this? And I think from there he quit coming to me because he was just like, hey, President, will just support whatever I introduced to him. So I think we're good on that part. So again, really a lot of the challenges you guys come up with them, because a lot of the things that need to happen are legislative solutions that I as president just get. I'm very happy to sign off on them. So again, I just want to say thank you for delegates that do come in and bring solutions and legislations and things like that. So again, I just want to say thank you, Honorable Crotty, for us to continue to work together. And then when it's to our Washington office, definitely, I think they've heard that. I think Justin probably heard your comments. I know all the directors are listening in and really looking forward to what kind of updates we can work on. And again, thank you for being on that committee with the First Lady. I know that First Lady is getting a lot more active. So I think that, I even having that talk with Governor Lujan the other day too, as well, to really make sure we strengthen that as well in New Mexico. So again, looking forward to the work that you're doing and the work that you're bringing to the table as well. So yeah. And then thank you for the walk. Thank you to you and Vice President for the walk this morning to really bring awareness and advocacy to make sure that we continue to fight for one another. Office of the Prosecutor. Some of these questions I missed, Shema, I'll get answers for you as well too. So again, with that being said, I just want to say thank you for the first couple of honorable delegates that have provided some comments, because this actually, like I said, I always look forward to this because it's the only time I can really spend some time with you. To me, this is quality time, really hearing your real thoughts and things that you're thinking about. So when I leave this chambers, that actually really gives me some things to think about, things for me to talk with my team and really move on. So again, thank you for all the comments. Remember, don't hide anything. This is one of those times where I enjoy this moment because I really want to know. So again, thank you for your brute honesty. I appreciate that. So, Madam Vice President.
I will go ahead and answer Shadeja, Honorable Charles Newton's question to me about my responsibilities as Vice President. There is no document that says what the Vice President is going to do. We've gone through it, and so when I started on this campaign with Shanala, Mr. Nygren, we talked about the different things that I would be looking towards and working with. And one of the biggest issues that I want to work with and I will work with and am working with is the chapter government. Again, as a former chapter president, I have firsthand sight on what my relationship was with the chapter administration and the Navajo Nation government, which was not positive a majority of the time. And so that's why I'm here today. Another responsibility that I work on is, as my report stated, is advocacy for responsible pet care, the missing murdered Indigenous relatives, and as mentioned by Shanella, President Nygren, customer service within our Navajo Nation government. I would like to make it clear that I do not call our departments and our divisions to get them in trouble. These are serious questions and issues that I get from the communities, from the chapter offices themselves, from chapter officials. Things like, I submitted this form for our facility to get updated. I want to know where it's at. I don't call and say, this is the Vice President, tell me what's going on. I introduce myself as Rochelle Montoya. I start asking the questions and I get the answers most of the time to what I need. And a majority of the time it is kind of difficult. And those are some of my responsibilities. To address the comment by both Honorable Vince James and Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton about women in leadership. First of all, I would like to say that Tolos ella ayo o ne to na hat an linigi beshi yaho a. Shamasana dahalo Shanala is sana shamayaja but ada is shatligi ebeses. Echo di quaggy nan shananishiteshli di need go not sauce sauce. Aro interview shit dilia aro di shanala shit a holna. Nella koro shigato Hinhat bedidilnish shizdinid. Ebony na lati when I'm out and about and I'm at chapter meetings and people tell me a kid doesn't hiki. And I say, to a kid doesn't iga hota sita. That is what this means to me, and this is what my ancestors and my elders taught me. We have a vice president, we have a president. They both are sitting there in leadership to help our people. That is first and foremost in my mind and in my heart to be here for my people. Denen linigi nkhada izneligi to nkhada izneligi eshinat ani dandle. That is who I answer to. And when I do my work here in Windrock and across the United States and the world, I always say that. I always think about my grandmothers. Kintlechini sani todo sheya tahashkeda. Hashit au aro hutni tahashit au aro hut au henzi tahashit au eya di kwaegi. Ado rost in lada. Tashish don nilchin le not niljin dinan sagon sentle. And at right now, I have been struggling with issues within our office. As mentioned by the council delegates, and I've been approached by many of you asking me questions about how I'm doing as vice president. And I'm so proud of the work that I've done so far on behalf of my people, with my staff, Josie. Josie's capacity as my staff is my assistant, my scheduler, and my security staff. And she's been doing an amazing job. I appreciate everybody from outside the Navajo Nation's government that has assisted me so far. From research to anything and everything that I could possibly need, from being in Washington to being in Santa Fe to Arizona to the state of Utah. A lot of smart and good-hearted people are out there that want to bring positivity to the Navajo Nation, and I thank them for that. There's many of them out there. And the reason that I have many of these people out there to assist me is because I don't have the help within the executive branch. We have division directors, we have executive staff assistants that work with the office of the president. I do get a little bit of help once in a great while when I ask for it, but most of the time I don't, because of the negative impact that happens to these individuals if they do assist me. Again, I was raised by strong women who have probably been in this situation before, and that's why I have this teaching within me. And that's what I'm doing here. I I try and find outside sources to help me with whatever it is I'm doing. And that's why as far as the Humane Society, I'm working with Best Friends Humane Society out of Utah. One, because they're doing an awesome job. Two, because they've offered to help us with finding funding for what we are lacking with the Navajo Nation. I've had some conversations with President Nygren in regards to how I feel and what I observe. I continuously hear out there comments about, what are you doing within the Vice President's office? What does she talk about to you? I haven't been told to not do projects. I have not been told to stop doing things. And I appreciate that because, like I said, everything I do is for the Navajo people. I've been approached by different people in the executive branch to get a better idea of where I stand. Am I still in support of President Nygren? Am I still in support of his initiatives that he campaigned on? And I have mentioned that I am still 150% behind the people of the Navajo Nation. There are some things that I wish could be different that I don't support President Nygren with. I appreciate this opportunity today to speak. This morning, we started our walk from the museum. It was cold, it was windy, and then I was there with my daughter, Autumn. They asked her to carry the banner, so I helped her. And if you've ever been a banner carrier, you know the struggles of carrying a banner in a parade when it's windy. All these different things I went through. I even had to take a pause because my hands got frozen after a while. All that time of walking, I thought about the individuals who are terrified to tell their story, who don't want their perpetrators, who could possibly be a family member, to get mad at them, to treat them differently, or to treat their family differently. But I think a person needs to tell their story so that things can change. I go throughout the Navajo Nation, and individuals in the Navajo Nation still are not as respectful to me as they would be if I were a man. I listen a lot. That's what I've been doing so far as your vice president. And then I go out and I start to advocate and I start to talk to individuals that I know will listen. From the governors of the state of New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, to the legislatures, to the representatives and the senators that are out there. It is difficult. It is difficult to be in this position. But as I always say, I am humbled and honored to have been elected the first female in this position. And everything that I go through, everything that I'm experiencing now is my hope that the next female president or vice president will not have to go through. One of the things this young lady told me when she asked me how I was doing as vice president, there's some individuals that I've spoken to and told them about my experience. And she says to me, Shade, it's kind of like you're blocking all the arrows that are coming your way. And she says, I speak to my students. She's an educator. And she says, I talk to my students, my male students. and I tell them we need to be respectful. This past Thursday, I talked about respect among our students in high school because there was some young women that let me know that the boys were not being respectful. They were being bullied, they were being sexualized, and the schools are having a hard time trying to get that under control. And again, I come back to saying, they're watching us. I struggled with how to talk about this, my experience and what I'm going through, because I do not want anybody to say that this is what, this is what would happen if we had women in leadership. I'm powering through. I'm trying my best to find solutions to what I'm going through. I pray about it. I talk to my hatathis, my brothers. But most of all, the support comes from my sisters. I know that they wish that I would take their advice and be a little bit more stronger and assertive by saying, this is what's happening to me. But that's not what I feel how I need to address this. And I appreciate each and every one of you that have come up to me and asked me how I'm doing. How is this going? Another thing that I've been told is, Vice President Montoya, there's no way you're doing things wrong because nobody's done it before. And so because of that, I'm trying to do it right. I'm trying to make sure, again, that this path is plowed for our future leaders that are male and female, that they both know to be respectful to one another. Their knowledge, though in the linigi, begin linigi, with sort of linigi, shoti kwaegi, shik bonsis case go benina kwasita, donle hotana shak. I know in my heart that our Navajo Nation will go towards a more positive way. It's built on hopes and dreams of our elders and our ancestors that walked back from Huilde, that endured watching their homes get burned, their children being killed, so they wouldn't be a burden on that walk. We've latched onto that. During our campaign, we talked about balance. The male and female have brought balance to our culture, to our language, everything that we have. And I know that's what our people looked at when they voted for us. Ako, ehiaha, shiyaj, korobe heinzi do tado leilden nidiki, ado shadeja, ahut aushajahananse. Thought shiyaj, honorable tope. So does in liniki, behananse, no behananse. And of course, the rest of the 25th Navajo Nation Council. Your encouragement, your words of experience, of love, is what's keeping me and probably every person on the Navajo Nation going in whatever we're doing. My goal and my commitment to the Navajo Nation people and to what we campaigned on is still at the highest level. And it will continue that way. and God willing, with all the projects that we need to get done for our people. And so again, thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you so much for your words and giving me this opportunity. One of the things that held me back from talking about this is people asking me, where's your proof? Who said it? What did they say? And I don't have that. I don't record people. I don't do that. I just have the individual coming up to me and letting me know what they heard. And it makes me sad. It makes me sad that these words are said about me behind closed doors. That you can't just call me in and tell me this is the problem I have with you. So from this point, I hope that these things are addressed and we learn from it and we continue to work and fight for our Navajo people as we said we would. And I'm confident that we will. We are smart people, we are loving people, we are kind people. And like I said, we have people that are holding us accountable. So even with all of that happening, I'm doing my best working and being there for our people. So again, I appreciate that, and that concludes my response.
Shema, Vice President. And thank you for sharing something that is deeply, a struggle. Sani Jalon Sate Kon Kitnila, don't be so emotional or personal. So Koto Zibi Sin Yagi, Shilpehos in the store. Be Sayato, Yego and Tishama, Koto Eona Totisindo Leto, Yego and Tindo Leshama. And I know I noted down extra questions that were answered. So, our President, before I give the floor back to you, there were questions regarding grazing permit issue plans. For what is your administration's plan to take that away from the BIA, or is there any initial steps to start that process? So those were one of the questions that, and also in regards to how do you plan to address the federal funds decreasing, addressing some of the advocacy work that was stated by Chair Crotty. So those are some of the two areas that I noted that also needed some explanation or response. And then after President, I will continue down for request to speak. President?
Yeah, Madam Vice President. One of the things I was thinking about sitting here was one of the things I told Vice President when I selected her was, we want to do something no other Vice President has ever done. And that was one of the things that I first remember, because we've had Vice President stories ever since I could remember, and some of the issues and some of the challenges. But now you have a strong woman in that position. What every male couldn't do is all her predecessors. How do we get it done? How do we get everything that we want to accomplish completed? And that was one of the things I talked to her about. And then you come to the government, right? One of the things I promised her this coming budget cycle is I'm going to get you staff. Don't worry about it. I'm going to make sure that your staff this year, because some of the things, as obviously going through the budget cycle, it was my first time going through the budget cycle. And even to ask for additional staff, we still don't have resources. I still don't even have enough people that can attend all the HESI, all the RDC meetings, and all these meetings that people can go to. Because sometimes you guys run into me like, President, where's your staff? Well, sometimes it's just me as well, too. So that's one of the things. I'm actually going to be very ambitious this coming budget cycle. I'm going to make sure the vice president has got enough staff. And I'm going to make sure as the Navajo Nation president, I got enough staff. And so that's going to be one of the things I think about, because just hearing her story, some of her challenges, some of her struggles, even trying to get a woman police officer in EPS, that's been a struggle. Because right now I've only staffed up to about 3 of them. And that's the ones that we could recruit. Recruiting women police officers has been very tough. And how do I do that? So things like that, again, this budget cycle, I just want to make it very known that I'm going to make sure I propose Office of the President and Vice President staff. And you guys, well, I'm very happy that you guys are excited to support it. So again, I really want to say that, and that's going to be my commitment to the Vice President, is that you'll get a staff that's really going to work on it. So again, it's just going to be up to the colleagues of the Eugenia, Vince, and some of the others that really advocate on her behalf to make sure that she's fully staffed. So again, and that's going to be my proposition. At first, I was thinking this coming budget cycle, I was just going to add maybe a few others, but hearing everything and always answering all these questions, sometimes I always feel like, man, even as the president of the largest government in the United States of America, an indigenous tribe, sometimes I feel like I can't even I don't have the resources that I need. So again, this coming budget cycle, really, we're going to beef up OPVP for sure. And that's going to be my commitment to you, Vice President, is that you've heard it from here, is that really exercising, obviously when it comes to budget cycle, that's where the president plays a very pivotal role. But we're going to make sure that you're fully staffed the way you want to be staffed, so that you can continue to work on some of the things that you're working on. Because there's never been a time where I told her, don't do something. You know what I mean? I even try to make it very blunt in staff meetings. Just help her. These are the priorities. This is what we campaigned on. Just get it done. That's all that matters to me, is we get it done. Because as president, sometimes you just get so stuck in your office, get so stuck in really doing the work that we need to do. There's not enough time to really, even my staff, sometimes they say that. You don't even come on by and you check on us. You don't even say hi. You're always going meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting. You don't ask, how are you doing? Because sometimes as president, what I've told them was that really trying to make
Point of order
sure.
raised by Chair Vince James.
I raise this point of order to Rule 25, point of order, appeal of decision. President, with all due respect, and Vice President, President Bunigrin, you were asked to respond to 2 questions that came from Speaker. If we can hear a response to those 2 questions, that is my point of order. It wasn't a request from Speaker to you for you to respond back to the statements that were made by Madam Vice President Michelle Montoya. Just wanted to make that point of order. Thank you.
So, Chair James, I'm going to recognize that point of order. President, if you could answer the grazing permit issue plans, and then also the federal government funding decreasing, and how you can help address those issues that Chair Crotty did state in regards to missing person, also advocacy work. And also, there was also one more. There was a question about the hierarchy of your administration within your office. I believe those were 3 questions. And then I'll move forward after to Delegate Dr. Endinez.
Thank you. I think when it comes to our grazing, again, thank you. That was a topic that was brought up to me about how do we collect all the grazing permits that are outdated. One of my stances on that was to really make sure that we hear from the public, we hear from the community members before I have an actual official statement. So we're working on that. And then when it comes to the advocacy, I mentioned to Honorable Crotty that I'd get her a response, because I don't have the answer right now. And then when it comes to the hierarchy, obviously, I think there's a lot of organizational structures that need to be fixed, and I'm always open to how do we fix Title II, how do we fix Title 26. So again, maybe if we have that discussion, let's have that discussion, because I know that we're still operating on a temporary form of government since 1989. So when are we going to have a permanent government? And that's the discussion that I'm more than happy to have, because I know we went from chairmanship to the president of the Navajo Nation, and what else are we going to do to form a actual permanent government? So if that's the direction we want to go, let's have those discussions. I know that's within the legislative body of government development. So the hierarchy, obviously being elected by the Navajo people as their president, they assume I do everything, but most of the time I don't. I have a lot of these authorities that were stripped from the chairmanship to go to the other areas. So again, as president, I feel like there's a lot of things that I don't have control of. So when in my office, we try to go down the line. There's me, the vice president, and then there's division directors, the chief BITA, legal counsel. And then obviously you've got other people that get involved, Office of the Controller, Attorney General. There's just so many things that haven't really been defined. So I think if Mr. James or anybody else wants to really redefine our government, let's do it. Now's the time to fix our government. Let's put a permanent government in place, because it's been very tough since the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s on really getting things done, because sometimes I can sit here all I want and be as diplomatic as I want to be. It's still not going to work even as the president of the Navajo Nation. And that's what the public should learn, is that as the president of the Navajo Nation, it's very difficult to fight and advocate on the people's behalf, because most of the time they'll be shohaznita. And that's what we should really redefine, is the whole, not just my position. What does it mean to have a government? What does it mean, a government that works on behalf of the people? The hierarchy, obviously, to answer your question, is the Navajo people. That's who elected me to be here. People that are poor, people that are trying to get by, people that are still trying to struggle every single day. The phone calls that we get, I encourage you to meet with all my community representatives, learn about all your community members that reach out to me every single day. And most of the time, it's so hard to say, I can't. So to me, the hierarchy is the Navajo Nation people, because they haven't selected a final permanent government. So if that's what you want to talk about, let's talk about it. And I'm not sure if you wanted me to say I'm the Navajo Nation president. To me, I answer to the Navajo people, because I'm the only person elected by all Navajo people. But most of the time, I can't even deliver for them.
Thank you, President, and also Vice President. Colleagues, I'm going to go down the line of requests to speak, and also welcome back to our children. I believe they took a little lunch break. They are from Page High School, so they're here with us for a few more minutes, and they have to get back on the road, I believe. So if you could, colleagues, just thank them for us for visiting the council chambers. Honorable Dr. Andy Ness. Point of privilege raised by Chair Eugenia Charles Newton.
Thank you, Speaker. I call this a point of privilege under the Navajo Nation Council Rules of Order, Rule 16B. It does state that any council delegate may raise a point of privilege to receive additional comments from the sponsor. And it further states to also maintain among and between all members of council and the public, and to maintain the dignity and integrity of the proceedings. Under this point of privilege, Speaker, this is the second request regarding the question for hierarchy. I did state that the hierarchy currently, our understanding here at council, is it is the president, it is his chief of staff, it is his staff attorney, and then it is his scheduler / administrative assistant. I had asked the question, where does the vice president fit in this? And the response that I received was that at this point, hierarchy, you don't need a signatory authority in most cases. President explained that he's usually back in a day and a half. What I need to know as a council delegate representing my community and the Navajo Nation is, you by law, President, are the CEO. You run the entire executive branch. You also help to run the Navajo Nation. when you leave, who is the next person in line? And I asked that question, Speaker, because I did not vote for the chief of staff. I did not vote for the staff attorney. And I did not vote for the scheduler / administrative assistant. I understand that the vice president stated that within her responsibilities, she's still looking for that. But I would have thought, and maybe we need Department of Justice and Office of Legislative Counsel to provide us some information on this, because I'm looking through the code right now, is that the vice president would be the person in the hierarchy to be next in line.
Right,
And so
thank you,
that,
Chair.
Speaker, that question hasn't been answered. I just need to know, when the president leaves the Navajo Nation, and I also worry, Speaker, that when you also leave the Navajo Nation, you guys both sometimes are in the same place at the same time. Who is running the nation? Who is the leader who is going to be here in the event that something were to happen, would be able to take charge and would be able to lead our people and provide safety? That's what I worry about. And so that's why I need clarification. We know the law states in the Navajo Nation Code, it states that the president is the CEO of the executive branch. So he has all of the resources, he has everything at his disposal. But when he leaves, who is then in charge? Speaker, I also asked the question, and I appreciate that Vice President, I did specify a question directly to her, and she was able to answer that. And I called this point of privilege because I need additional comments. I appreciate the president saying that he is going to fight for her to receive more staff this time around. And I went back, last budget, you fought for your wife, President Nygren. 75,000 additional funds for your wife's office. You did not fight for the vice president and her staff. So I need clarification on how many staff is she going to be receiving? How many staff do you currently have? And again, Speaker, this is within the point of privilege, because I'm requesting additional comments that were raised by both president and vice president. I just need to know, and I think the Navajo people need to know this as well, is right now, President Nygren, how many staff do you have? Because Vice President already said she has one staff who is security, who is secretary, who's scheduler, who's her driver, who is always with her. I need to know how many staff you have and how many staff you can give her today so that she can do her job. Because as you stated, President, we want something different from previous OPVP administrations. You also stated, President, that you support the women, and you mentioned 75 to 80% of your staff right now are women, and I appreciate that, but that doesn't answer the question that I'm talking specifically to in regards to the vice president. Because we've seen you advocate, President. We've seen the advocacy for your wife's office. We've seen the advocacy for your security detail /
Okay,
babysitter.
Chair, are there any other point of privileges? Because our point of privileges are
Additional
not used
comments,
for
Speaker.
additional debate.
I need the hierarchy. I need that question answered. And then the staff question. I need that answered as well. These were stuff that was brought up regarding the question that I asked that they didn't answer. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Chair Eugenia Charles New. I'm going to recognize that point of privilege. President, those questions I believe are directly to you in regards to Office of the Vice President staffing and also hierarchy. I think in terms of hierarchy, It means delegation of authority, or who is that delegation of authority once you do leave the Navajo Nation. For example, in the legislative branch, I do appoint a pro temp speaker. So this, I believe that's a similar question on how the executive branch does that process. And so, President, if you could directly just to those questions that were raised by Chair Eugene R. Charles Newton.
Okay, thank you. Chair Charles Newton and Speaker Curley and the honorable members of the 25th Navajo Nation Council. When it comes to hierarchy, when you read, I'm not an attorney by any chance, but if something does happen to me, she becomes the president of the Navajo Nation. And we would never want, I don't want to think like that, but that's how I think about it. But in return, I always tried to figure out how can I give her more authority than what's written in the law. So I think that if you really want to work on something, I know Otto So mentioned it a long time to me about how do we redefine the role of the vice president? Because right now it just says in the event of the president dying, then you can assume the presidency. So I think that if we can have you and your committee look at that, if you want to take some authorities out of the president and really work on that. But in the meantime, if you're thinking about, nobody signs contracts in my office and legislations. I want to be there for it because to me, that's very important. What if something does happen? So I think that limited signing of stuff, I think TAs, I think that if VP wants to sign off on people's TAs, if VP wants to sign off on I think she signs on expenditure plans or things like that, we can redefine that. Because I just assume that if she really wants to, because it's very cumbersome to sign all these things, but if she's more than happy to sign some of these things, we'll definitely make some adjustments to where she's signing off on TA, signing off on all the, not contracts. I'm very specific on contracts and legislations. I need to be there to make sure that, because end of the day, when I come back, I'm the one that's obligated to deal with it. So if I'm obligated to deal with it when I come back, then I should be the one that signs it. So again, that's how I think about the delegation of authority. But again, I wish I could point something, but in terms of she wants to sign more documents, we'll do that because right now she signs off. I see it, probably hundreds and hundreds of documents that come across her desk that she signs at the very moment. If we want to add more documents that she wants to sign, we can definitely do that. Again, we can look into that. So again, she signs a lot of stuff already, but we can add more stuff. Maybe it might actually help me out too. So we'll work on that. But delegation of authority, I think that we'll update the letter. I guess that's what you're asking for, is we'll update the letter so she can sign off on TAs and packets and stuff like that. But as far as legislations and contracts, I want to see them. And I think that's what, if you just imagine, I feel like I got to sign every legislation because I feel like I need to know that I fully support it, because if I don't support it, then it just doesn't work for me. So again, so that might also mean I don't travel as much too. So, which I'm fine to not doing. I love being here on Navajo regardless. And then to the, how many staff do I have? I've got one scheduler and one assistant that works with me every single day. His name is Alray. And then EPS, like I said, I've only found a few other male police officers that she's vice president is always offered the senior guy in our office, and they're available, but it's obviously having a male EPS. Sometimes it just doesn't work. So again, if Navajo PD can offer up some executive protection, really, we've got 3 vacancies. So if you can make a phone call to get us 3 women police officers, we'll be more than happy to take them. And then when it comes to general staff, I think that if you're thinking about everybody that works, if you put it in terms of CEO, over 5,000 people report to me. But most of the time, I only see one person, which is my scheduler. It's just when I go inside of a meeting, I think you just introduced a group of students to me just earlier. I was the only one in the room with all the students. I think Shay, who's a new hire, came in and he took some photos, and then he was back again as well. And then there's other scenarios where if I wish I had more staff, I want another, because I get complaints all the time. We tried to schedule you, Alray's not doing his job and things like that. So maybe we all, end of the day, we all do need more staff. But in terms of direct staff, it's Alray Nelson. So other than that, it's everybody does their own duties. yeah, I'm thinking maybe the people that do follow me, yeah, like I said, Alray's my guy. I don't even see our community reps. I don't see our division directors. I see the media people once in a while. I don't even see the chief of staff. He's always working his business, deputy chief of staff, working with council as well. So I guess, and then I know Rochelle's Madam Vice President's got a good relationship with the chief of staff too. So, and her office is right across as well too. So you can definitely walk across and meet with her, and they can talk together, whatever it takes. You know, and it's just one of those things where when you're at this highest level of government, you're always never going to have the right answer. But in terms of trying to make sure that we do what we can, I also invite you guys to come be with me too. Come be with me, and I think short term too. One of the things I actually might do too is I'll have a chat with VP is really just hanging out with me. Then that way the public is like, you know what, we're working together, we're designing these legislations, we're meeting with organizations, we're doing all those things. Because sometimes to staff me and the vice president, to actually fully staff her, it's almost impossible unless we get some other people. But then again, I'll look at your suggestion too, Honorable ECN, is see what staff we can shift to her. Maybe I give up my assistant and scheduler and send it to her and see what we can do. Because I'm pretty good at scheduling and things like that too. I've done it for a long time, and if I have to do it, I'll do it. So we might be moving Alri over to vice president if that's something that we can work on as well too. So in terms of, but yeah, we'll update the letter. We'll just update that same letter, put her signature on there, and then go from there. But the other thing I was thinking about too is, let's say I'm not here and she's not here. The chief of staff signs the legislation. You know, that's one of the things I think about. And so it's like, so I think that's what yeah, I just need more clarity, because that would sound weird if I'm not here, the vice president's not here, and chief of staff, or let's say it gets down to the deputy chief of staff signing off on contracts and signing off on legislation. So I don't know. There just needs a lot more clarity that we can really look into as well. So again, thank you, Chairwoman. And then if there's anything else, again, let me know. I'm more than happy. I block out this whole day to be here with you guys. So.
Thank you, President, for addressing that point of privilege. Colleagues, I'm going to go back down to the line. We have Honorable Dr. Endinez, 5 minutes on the board.
Yeah, Shada Speaker, thank you. Arokuro Shinato Shima, President, Vice President. While we're on the subject, and it was a part of my question, under the previous budget for last season, your office actually received over 20 executive staff assistant positions, which equated to over $1 million of the people's money. So I think you have a little more than just a few of the staff that you've identified. So this budget season, I hope to see that here in this budget cycle. Last cycle, you did advocate, your office, Mr. Arvin Mitchell was here, advocated for the additional 3 staff, I believe. So I think there is room to provide our Madam Vice President with the executive staff assistant that she needs to carry out the functions of the Office of President and Vice President. Also, in your report here, I just want you to be aware, I'm not sure if you're aware, but the Navajo Nation Veterans Administration, they are amending the Navajo Nation Veterans Trust Fund policy. I've been encouraging our commanders in Upper District 18 and our veterans to ensure that they are participating in some of the discussions, because at the end of the day, it does affect them. And it's a signature that's between yourself and the Navajo Nation Veterans Administration. In this case, Shatan Linigi Kuro, Director Baldwin. And I want you to ensure that in your review of the trust fund policy, that it is a reflection of our veterans and their voices across Navajo Nation. And I look forward to dropping legislation to ensure that HES is a part of that conversation. So the next thing on page 5 of your report, you talk about the Navajo Nation uranium mine cleanup as a super fund. So according to the HRS, these are priorities. So I hope that you're still maintaining a good front when it comes to on behalf of all of the abandoned uranium mines. This is one of the concerns that we have for our NFPI site in Navajo, to not have it within a super fund because it becomes priority. And at the national level, our wonderful community of Red Lake wouldn't reach high within that priority, unfortunately. So we do our best to maintain it as a brownfields program so that we're able to receive funds and grants and others to address the nation's first enterprise that was created. And now we're left here with contamination nearly 30 years later. The next items that I want to mention is in your report on page 7, you had talked about the 545 potholes, and I'm glad BIA is here because not only do we appreciate these pothole fillings, but we've been waiting over a year now, I can finally say over a year, that for striping on N12. It's gray the whole time. You have our elderly community that are driving to and from. You have Navajo Nation employees that are treating it like a NASCAR racetrack. You have like so many different unfortunate circumstances on N12 that the striping is a high concern. So I hope in your advocacy, as well as Mr. Platero Chiche, would help to forward that. Also, you know, I just, last time and many times before, I've addressed the issues with having a representative from your office at Health, Education, Human Service Committee. And to my understanding, one of the responses we got was, well, if a division director is there, then it's the division director. Well, when we met with the Navajo Nation Advisory Council on Disability, there was no division director there. And these are important consultations that have occurred with your office that have not been followed up by your office. And that concerns not only the commissioners of Nahatadzi and their concerns, but others that have met but have yet to hear back from your office as well. And I also want to welcome Lynn Ann Yazi. She's here in our gallery. She's the Deputy Associate Superintendent of Education within the Office of Indian Education in Arizona, which, by the way, your report does not highlight anything within the field of education. And I'm just, part of my amendments for Title 10 is to restructure a lot of the educational component for our nation, but I don't know where your current priorities are when it comes to education. And in your earlier statements, you indicated that you go to every agency council meeting. We didn't see you at Fort Defiance agency council meeting this past Saturday. We did have a representative, but again, these are just some of the concerns that many of our Upper District 18, our agency councils, our chapters, a lot of good information that comes from these council meetings that need your attention. And there were concerns that there was a representative there on your behalf, which is great. I understand scheduling happens, but if you can also push forward to some of that effort.
We have time. Next, we have Shema, Honorable Helena Nesbegay.
Oh, Nana, to my colleagues here on the 25th Navajo Nation Council and our guests and our staff. And I don't know if my paid students are still here. They wanted the president to say goodbye to them, so I thought I have some concerns coming from the individuals out in the field, the chapter meetings on the atleto, on the shik edo shiden esani do has tweeda isan ko ashaban sedakes ado belganik achiya yego yadaltje laten sani dos twi da isan at isha shabat shaban sedakes do shabel da inol tra shande o kodun hisin san o hot eko di de kwebe hasi e the benant an lenite so it's probably across the Navajo Nation, and it's not just only from Western Agency that have come to me. There's several other grazing reps that chapter officials. The meeting they get paid for it. I mean, it takes a long time to get paid on it. Ebenina, Edo, I want to bring that out. So, Isha Hadid Ada, Jin Nesta, Kiti Kadoba, Be Yata Dolke. And these Ashi need these chapter grazing reps. They travel on their own money from home to home. So when they get called in, I call Adonda. The second thing is home site lease. Since we're from the Western Agency, and a lot of documents are lost from the agency to the central office. I call AD that somehow that needs to go online. Everything's technology and everything we do is right here at the tip of our fingers. So, without download the documents and send them in. Why is it so hard? Don't just hold them up at the agency office. Send them in right away. Our people are waiting. So, some people are saying they're taking 2 years just to get a home site lease. In a lot of NHA home, when you go visit at NHA compounds, so a lot of potholes. Some of them been there for so many years. I remember when back in high school, those potholes were there, and they're still there. So somehow, and it's even getting worse by now. It's Hanaso Tota Handeke Koegi Elchiniajan the Haltion the Arch Hijeho Toye in Danego on the road, and we have people racing on that road too. So safety's an issue there. So that needs to be addressed before anything. I don't the season he linked the halot the big the bedot is a tanta tata the guest the hoshi jiko. A the door ashon the hadit on habaya dust on the happen the how adol let store. The whole around the honey honda at then cut with then the alinda or the الكتاب هي هاشين نشد سكين سطحت تحكيش عن كده نو هاشين تخنت دي كيشنك أدي عشان تخشت كيش أجا أدا $2 يباها لهكو. So maybe something with the Navajo Nation on economic development. Then maybe we could do something with the Navajo Nation itself to start doing something with the wools that we buy from our own people. That's what I think too. So a lot of our chapters, chapter meetings, are really like, maybe we need more trainings on how to run chapter meetings, or all these needs to be addressed out there. Go.
Time, Kudo, Delegate Helena Nesbigay. Sergeant of Arms, could you help us look for some of the colleagues that may be in the conference rooms or outside? We do only have 13 council members here on the floor. Next, we have Honorable Yanito.
Haji Inia da non lead chapters are in on the 13. Vice President Toya then had that died as a president leda non naso. Shea Utah did not sha ado in the Arizona though. I'm bordering with them. I have a lot of Utah issues. The Bears ears be a whole I don't hear why appointing as a commissioner. I don't co-management so he does nilo. This Utah legislation 20 is in Dashnish. a lot of the Utah priorities, yeah, it's when he's on that deals with the Navajo Mountain Ojeto Roads EIS 8 aronda a teen do banit a teen Jonagon Handa Aljeni from the San County Road Department. I dropped a legislation on it to go back with that system. Ayan to sa shintzalto. Edo shabrati in leilam na what's lanso. Another issue is anath public safety. Edo IC large de niki do biga banalte. I need a lot of those helps over there. Another thing too is Salt Lake City, the University of Utah, the other colleges throughout Utah, they are wanting a study hall. There were some donation that, they were ran by donation. They don't need to deplete on this. And then there's Salt Lake Community Cultural Center, the community of Salt Lake City. And then we have water rights issues too. AD water rights. We're dealing with 7 Utah County coalitions. When you were campaigning to get me a Utah liaison or advocates or executive director out on through emails and through resolution from the Navajo Utah Commission to select one of these individuals. And then when I text you, and then these reports that you do here afterwards, I tell you that. I don't in person, I dealt with you. And lay county, state, and lay Washington level with so please address that. And then another issue is I'm dealing with Arizona priorities as well. The Arizona has emergency cases. We need an emergency safety plan. This Navajo Nation is a dump site for all this hazardous material. With this uranium transport, it's going through my chapters and going up to White Mesa. Uranium cell families that was removed from their grazing areas without relocating to any kind of compensation or to another equal area. Another thing too is this green view. Pipeline. They got authority from the General Land Department. Are there the authority now? I thought the Navajo Nation Council was the authority to give those kind of directives. I'm having problems with bribery with the community and chapter officials and so forth. You're elected, and we need the Attorney General be elected in. I don't know with your 3-branch system, it wasn't approved by the citizens of the Navajo Nation. And then you're the enforcer here that you need to enforce a lot of these legislation, not enforcing these county, state, or Washington level. What Montoya, my vice president, I really praise you for being a strong lady, and I always ask you some questions, and then you express this with us, and I really
Thank you, Honorable Unito. Next, we have Honorable Lester Yazzie.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam Speaker, Otto Yatish and I, Mr. President, and also Madam Vice President. She ya hoto toni chi de hote si sindo na ki da case in the lona edishkil. Ako Yatish and I, do she ni do pinda in an shitilia hoto yati ni pishpa. Tot asa no ajitene. Shatos Leo Yeshika AJ ako Highlands Rago. Ako she ya tachi ni slit last sheep as chin Kiani da Shinaldo, Ashi da Shiche, but Oshi Gehidi do this Siliage do in the Shinale, Madam Vice President. Ako, did ni hot on Juno by Hinzi hot Shinantai, Madam Nesbigay, Shima. Kodo ni Tana the Libeta Jogao, Argent, I this kitty do the Kigushi Kate on a ow. Now the shit out on the sea, I this kiddo ni hot oiba on easy. Ako di on I did this kitchen and I do the quag these jeans at the Nibiki Nisiki, a quaggy sa these to Saturn need an end height of the seals to higher ones and dollars. A saggy ya need an end late such educate any get a shield so kay up with the jeans. Not how neto de do quaggy they don't has other, but no in not so which a co a cat in Chicago, Mr. President. Ari the Mr. Executive Director Mike Colonna, do yisn dat in the she. Njeno ya bishit that ni beno e kwage ya hajo ya nahat agi to tigi kwage be. Alche de zi de kwage I sa shaban so case solution and I no senike. Ni the nejo ba inzo da ke ya yo ki di hatan shi da hoti na da shi da is nande akot a ni go hit oya shimbele that is okay ya nada has ni okade ya ayo nachi kopet el eko ko agit egan on khaba on assembly arona kyo nege ya did it need to go ko je budget and finance shift to shkina hoti ni ko ya na aje large shinantai chair parish aro shima to ko je Madam Delegate Crowley and the honorable members of the budget and finance committee AD ya hodo based on that so ge khashil so in the budget that ya ge ben nache na idish kitende le shike door shitende le chachel thacho ke hit chachel than le tsada ba de ye go thuiten le ako ARJ da la thoba da de zo ARJ hodo na kha ako base o get asho de da shaba khon no son le the whole that she base pas an no sini do in the sinan tai no sini ke do need petition is that the anle da hotina da bo on the show hoto ya ni his call je ko AD do don khaba khon no son do le aro di a no no sto sani intel el sa hatan shi ya toto be shi change be do le be do ni de na tin se be ta ta ho yo khas ya ha ta jo ka de ishla da na khay aro shten ya ni nan tai be na shi na ho na the honorable speaker Seth Damon the legislative assistant in Shlon na ho na adot a nido onagajna nishi bits ani adok adia shidene ya shatzos leo hone ya tatashinista ako 800 hot shla na khay on the basic chi which be net a late auto kage da agatit a in here agatit I to be da hinilta ako sani dilla ge jo ba bitilia as twine bitaba na dilia ako ya is ayu sani selin delt out ako AD get asan sago hadosh asan base ka di chato hadal so da aje banan shita dilni aro katie get yeah non hit edition and I know sending it in the report be it Mr. President you mentioned the Eagle SONN software and I really applaud the consideration for improving the case management and monitoring our veterans demographics Joe AD the continuous work that you're doing along with the budget and finance to streamline and submit timely support service financial assistance to our veterans. In general, ya aje isla jon sa netli to kya na ya de khanet ni che nat anal ido aro let khanas nel bil tahona awin ina isla soy inat apil na huile konskago ya a kya na ako hot o ya sabi sha hun age madam speaker shnant a kya la a hon so I khas si do thank you madam speaker.
Yeah, Honorable Yazi, you almost ran out of time for the first time. I was ready. Thank you, Honorable Yazi, and I don't see anyone else in queue, colleagues, so I'm going to go back to President and Vice President for your responses.
Yate, thank you, 25th Nomination Council. Otto, thank you, Speaker, for allowing me to speak here. One of the things I want to mention, Dr. Andy Nez, I know, thank the three staff and the other staff that have been on board. Really, I think that maybe there's an opportunity to try to figure out how do I get staff out to your committees. I've been trying to think about that, but at the same time, the current staff that I have is really focused on what's going on out in the community. And again, really just trying to figure out how to make that happen. And I'm sorry that no division director or the highest ranking executive staff was not in the room. The first time I'm hearing about it. The other thing I think about is, and if I miss any questions, you will definitely have something in writing. The paint good minds. All the potholes, really working with BIA and the striping. Definitely, I know I've traveled that road many times. I hear what you're saying. I think that we can definitely come together and just have a meeting on it to figure out how do we get it done, because striping shouldn't take that long, especially with the way the striping machines work. And then with summer approaching, it should be a fairly easy project to really get done. So looking forward to that. And 12, Lennon Yazi, education. Thank you for being here, Kat. The current priorities. Oh yeah, you're right. I misspoke. I didn't attend. I attended all 5 agency meetings in the first quarter. The second quarter ones, I haven't attended any of them, but I think they were very happy I attended the first ones. So it was an honor to go to 5 agency council meetings in a month. So that was a lot of fun. I think that's all I got. But when it comes to New Mexico education, I know that definitely I appointed you to a commission. So I'm looking forward to a report from you as well, so I can actually have that within my dialogues, because obviously when you appoint somebody, you really try to figure out what kind of reports are coming back to you. So it was an honor to appoint you to a commission on my behalf. We're in the state of New Mexico. But as far as education in general, I know really just trying to fund scholarships. That's one of the things I think about, is how do we get more money in that account so that we don't turn away thousands of our Navajo people. And then Honorable Helena Nez, Shema Yate. Sorry I didn't say bye to your students. I was too busy looking down. I'm checking out my notes that I'm chicken scratching. The elders, yes, I know you work there at the senior center. You've told me many times. I think payments to our grazing officials, I know this is, I think, a few times that I've been told about it, and I've sent an email, I've made a phone call, but sometimes I just need to make another phone call, make another email, and we'll see where that goes. But we'll definitely work on that. Shema, again, I just want to say thank you. We'll continue to follow up on that, and we'll move along. Inikshay, the potholes, I think that Inikshay probably heard that as well, and I heard it. Really trying to work on that, and really opportunities for our local artisans and our sheep herders, and really trying to figure out how can we make wool more accessible and our people can buy it. Definitely, I think the SSBCI, I think we talked about that grant earlier, and really trying to figure out how can we use some of those monies. I think there's dollars that are available within SSBCI, the 80-something million, and maybe there's a program to really upstart that so a lot more people can so again, I think that's, and then if I miss anything too, let me know, because I have dedicated myself for the afternoon. So Curtis, my delegate, good to see you. Sorry, I know. They say the same thing to me. They say, you're from here and we haven't even seen you in Red Mesa, not even one time. How come we don't go to your chapter? Extend my, let them know while I'm president, I'll show up to Red Mesa chapter house, okay? I know, because as a Navajo Nation president, you're really trying to think for the entire nation and really try to make things work here in Window Rock. And I don't even have time to go visit my own chapter. So one of these days I'll show up at my chapter, and I know Mr. Herman Farley will be very happy, Shananta, our chapter official. But we'll put that on there. I'll make it a goal to visit the chapter, but I know my roles and my responsibilities are here in Window Rock most of the time. So, but I'll try to get out there. Utah issues, same thing here. I know, I guess, well, the other thing I think about too is I know this coming year, in the meantime, I've got a young gentleman by the name of Shea Holiday. He's from Utah. I know he's not full time there, but he can probably be part time, part time, trying to work with you. And that's what I feel with a lot of my staff. They're so stretched thin with trying to do what they can and work with what they got. But we'll try to get you in touch with Shea. I know he works really closely with Ojato chapter officials and the Utah Monument Valley. I know Herman Daniels has a good relationship with this young man. So I'll get you in touch. But looking forward to this coming fall. I think this coming October, we'll definitely get a Utah representative. Maybe we get a couple. We'll do that as well so we can actually make that happen. Study hall, again, I just want to say thank you. I know you've talked about the EPA, the priority, the transport, the uranium. I'm all there. You know what I mean? I think these people continue to say and try to haul uranium across our lands without even giving us any thought. So again, I know I'm looking forward to DOJ, Stephen, to really get something together within the next month to actually have some good regulations that will really make it tough on people and possibly they'll avoid coming here on Navajo. So I think that's going to be exciting. The other thing that you mentioned was the Greenview project. What you mentioned about bribery, that's new to me. I definitely look forward to if there is bribery going on and see what's happening. I know there is legislation that will be going before the RDC committee in the coming weeks. And to me, my stance has been if these large $1 million amounts of money, if it's going to happen, half of these money should go into those communities. And so that's my only ask on my end. I don't know if they're going to take me on it, but I really support this is if those communities that are affected, that goes into those communities. One thing like coal mine chapter, right? They don't even have a chapter house. Or you go all the way down the road, they really need assistance at the local level. So if these revenue generating projects do happen, they should go directly into the chapters so that they can help our people right away. And so that's my only stance. I know if that does happen, obviously people in Honorable Rick Nez's area, I know they supplement 60 to 80 million to the Navajo Nation. So they're probably going to say, hey, let us keep half if you're doing that out in Arizona. So I'm hoping that they don't say that, but we'll see what they say. But again, that's the Greenview, the bribing one is interesting. That shouldn't be happening as well. Let's see. Then if anything I missed, again, thank you. I apologize, and you can let me know what I missed so I can really reiterate exactly what I missed as well, too. So thank you, Honorable Curtis Sinito Shananta. And then on to Lester Yazi, Ate Shananta. Thank you so much for your willingness to throw your hat in to do what we do all day, every day. So I think it's exciting to have you on. And I didn't know you spoke really good Navajo. Thank you for that. I know that's one of the things our communities really miss is the Neheshin. I know sits right behind you. So again, I'm glad that that's happening. Thank you for throwing your hat in and not throwing your hat in, but now as a fully council delegate of the 25th Navajo Nation Council. So, and what's great is you've been in LDA. You know the problems of your issues, and you know what it takes to help and support a delegate. So, I think you're well equipped, and looking forward to your suggestions and anything that you might have for us to work with you, because I know we might be the executive branch, but there's only so much we know. One of the things I really want to finish is the Code Talker Museum. I know Governor Lujan asked me about it the other day as well, too. So if we can try to figure out how we take care of the Code Talker Museum, that would be great. Again, congrats for sitting on one of the most prominent committees, the Budget and Finance Committee. So I think that's exciting for you as well. And then I kind of, again, the Eagle Sun, I think that's, we got to do that. You know, I've heard so many good stories on how Eagle Sun has processed TANF payments to hundreds and hundreds of our Dene relatives across the nation and Division of Social Services. So I'm really excited when this program gets launched so our veterans can get payment a lot quicker than we've ever had in the past. So thank you for your foresight and some of the issues with the power lines. Definitely something that's been in the works for 5 years. Definitely get with my team. I know that's usually the best way to do it is if we can really get a meeting particularly scheduled for you, because I know even Mr. Wally Haas schedules meetings with me trying to make sure that these power lines and these things that are really needed that needs to happen. So again, same thing. My schedule is always open when the delegate reaches out. I try to meet with them as soon as I can. I know there's times when people do cancel, but it's a little sad when people do cancel. But I really try to hope to see you all the time. But we'll do that. But again, and then I'll get my personal my cell number to you as well too. So let's see. But hey, I'm here all day. I said it already. I think that's all I got, Madam Speaker. I'm going to give the microphone over to Madam Vice President, who can add on to some of the things that I possibly missed.
I don't think you missed anything, President. I would just like to add on to comments for our Council Delegate Yanito. I have been working a little bit more with Utah than I have been in the past. And it is just because of the lack of representation for our people in that state. And I feel like the conversations that I've had with Utah State leadership has been going in a good direction, and just the different entities that are out there that are assisting our Navajo people in the region that we have there. So please know that our office is working with a better working relationship with the Utah State. Yes.
Thank you, President and Vice President. Colleagues, we do have some more a delegate in the request to speak. So Chairness.
Kushila Speaker Bishwas Anakuro Shitejikedo Shitsilakeshin and Shitsila President Nigrin Arushiteja Vice President Montoya. What Aronhinan is shortly in a given Hilhosnegi. As a leader, there's really sometimes you got to think, Hajoban, it's a case of we don't see each other as male and female sometimes. You're a leader, you got to learn how to take it. To quit a people throw you under the bus. Aro business o incident ni naso ba hesen zanse what the queer what has the question nacha nasto passion o whether to hake so it is what Arabans is a case of Nahon Tinselati Nant Ani Etle has Ajiki Di Kodo Ane Haishibanil Eshi got Eti Quijilting got a Saneliki Bagurdian Halon Shasto Maitsoto Ado Nashtuido Tasana my endaka Ako Heidi Shibadanil Ehot Ende Achadach's Andre the Sananat Artist Ohyandita Shashin Rern at Neji Iroyanaga Nashtue Obatosan Nelodot Onaga might Sohen that Nihonle the Hara Shit says Zayet Nando Lagash Aron Tamaero eat Era Benatlo Ishin no wetan hitan Hot Agava Nagera Bendan hit nest Hantlar. A Coti Ronald Chos in Jurgolan Helia got a so Kigacha. Doe Ked a Santara, Shitajan Lenigi, Ega Sugar da Santa, Nero, Tlahon Helia. Mr. President, thank you. At the Honent, at Ayon Chadas, oh yeah, Hunt and Handlan. A Codi Koro, page 6, Enterprise Resource Planning, page 7, Nela. A vendor was selected and notified last Thursday. Nela, Ela vendor, Selila and Soya. How do you go down to the last paragraph there? Number two, N36 highway runs right by my house. And man, they sure are fixing that road. Remember that turn off by San Juan chapter, National Lampoon, that ramp is being fixed. So I'm really glad and happy for that. Thanks to Garrett Silversmith, as well as Daryl Bradley, our Daniel Begay, and now Tom Platero. And Joe Peterman's been out there getting a tan as well. So Asian Arban on the Shios and okay, the dish in Sarson and I'm not Seneki, do ye go that Arnold Scott, do you need era, nature sick got hot eggbin in Atana or count at the hashed castle. I say on the head neatly. Ye go a hatsohordis and go shint at ego hashi on. I heard that such a case to Hazard about Chilean, the light is sick. You ask for forgiveness. Even now, the snow at ages, she is at King Oshit all the water that the snake. She has taught begin between. What will wash away my sin? Nothing but the blood of Jesus. Tishno hashthat digin bitcher. Ot arish liat eto at a Hansen. Dene. Any that is Neltsera. I never shot one arrow at my opponent. Not even one. Ada goedo it egot neshat kinhik. Full page ad that she is in the snizzer big had the sheet in Ebenina edition. The Quidishin Pashik and Nas what Naso Pasan Oshik on Hache. The Shno Ohos Anto Head again.
Yeah, Chair Nez. Colleagues, I'm going to go back to reserve time. We have reserve time by Chair Eugenia Charles Newton with 1 minute and 3 seconds.
Thank you, Speaker, and also again, President and Vice President for the report. I just have one question. I've been pushing for a recovery fund using the Arpa money. The plan, as you know, President, Vice President, Speaker, colleagues here, we cannot afford to send back even 1 penny of that money. And I feel like this is something that we can, because the contracts are not being obligated in a timely manner, that this is an option that is still out there. President Nygren, when I met with your administration in January, beginning of February of last year, I got the answer that your administration did not support that initiative. I'm hoping that you have changed your mind on this and think about how this money can go out to the people who need to use it. We know inflation, we know costs have gone up, so I need your support on that, and I want to get that on the record today. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, for those comments and questions. Colleagues, I don't see anybody else in request to speak, so I'm going to turn the floor back over to President and Vice President.
Yeah, Shana, thank you. That's one of the things. But again, I just want to say thank you for your leadership, thank you for your commitment, and thank you for your wise words of really, this is what it comes with. And I know that's one of those things that every day, that's what I continue to remind myself is that's just part of the job. But main thing is seeing those Navajo people get electricity, water, really have an opportunity for them to keep jobs, and how do we continue to make our government better? How do we help our veterans and really changing people's lives? That's the main thing I think about is you can say all you want to say, but as you mentioned earlier, don't forget why we're here. We're all here to help our people, help our community. And that's the best way to do it, is because sometimes, as you mentioned before, sometimes it's a way to get tricked, right? ida jale ha ishi hoja ishi da nenigi nasa na nishampa hajiona. So again, I just want to say thank you for those wise words, and we'll continue to stay the path. And I'm glad that you're going to miss that ramp. But I'm glad that INDOT's out there working on that. I know those are tangible results that we try to stay focused on within my office. Is like, we got to see it. Show me some action. I guess that's the best way. A lot of the carpenters are in this room that you can reiterate too, is that you can talk all the game you want, but once you start building the house, and I think that's what's great about it. And also the ERP, I believe I don't know the specific name of the company, but we'll get that company name over to you as well. And then again, thank you to INDOT, Joe Peterman, and former former Director Garrett as well. And really trying to make sure that it's just continue to move forward. That's all we can do. And then Chairwoman Yate, I've always I don't know what information got to you, but I've always been a big proponent of hardship. But the main thing is that I just want to make sure we do everything that we can, and whatever that we don't get done should go into hardship so that it can help the people that we can really do. And I know that those discussions are happening, but again, I don't have any ill wills about it, because I know a lot of family members and relatives that really use it the last time around, the couple of rounds that happened. But again, in the meantime, we're really trying to make sure that we're doing what we can to get a lot of these projects done. As you said, we don't want to send $1 back to the government, but if we can come up with a solution to where we can all win, if we can all benefit on more infrastructure, more even possibilities of even having hardship in there, at the same time trying to figure out how do we use the best solution, as I said earlier in my statement, optimize those solutions, kind of like why we were up and trying to get funding to secure public safety, or just using that methodology to optimize and how our people can win. So again, if there's ever a legislation that comes before me, there's no hesitation there. So I just want to let you know that. But again, thank you, ECN, for your leadership and your dedication, Chairwoman, Vice President.
Oh, I had not Shiash Kuro, Honorable Nes, and Hitch a Hainzi, though, what our Bohin Ankit, our Eben Hitch a Hainzi, Ayoba Hajon, Heda, what our Hitch a Hatzeho, and Nibahashna, and Lay Utah State University, Dina Shaw, Chinabel Now, Sisne. Aro Hodaro, Nena Aro Hodanot, and Hojino, which is our Aya, what's eat the snow that by here. And that's basically what it was please learn from my experiences, learn from what I'm telling you, so that you don't have to go through the same thing. And I appreciate that from you. Aro shut it ani what's audition other ni answer e lagi what's you had z ne go ebenashnisha that if he tells our team, if we can't do this and this legislation comes before me, then I won't hesitate to sign it.
Thank you, President and Vice President. Thank you, colleagues. I don't have anybody else in queue, and I don't have any reserve time. Second call and third call. 2 minutes on the board, colleagues, to accept the State of the Nation address. Colleagues, we have 1 minute on the board. Colleagues, that is a full vote here from the floor. We have 16 in favor, 0 opposed, with Speaker not voting. Thank you, President, and thank you, Vice President. Colleagues, we are down to number 6, receive report from the Chief Justice. So since she is on her way down with her presenters, colleagues, feel free to stand up and stretch a bit. That was 3 hours of questions and responses. All right, colleagues of the 25th Navajo Nation Council, to our visitors, if you are having conversations, if you could please take them outside of the chambers. We're still in the middle of our agenda. Colleagues, we are on number 6, receiving a report from the Chief Justice of the Navajo Nation.
Good morning or good afternoon. Here, she Joanne Jane and she Tabahin Schlenkenya Ani Bashin. Twitch any a dash Tabai Dashanilla Dashanella Twatch and they is a ade Nasha. Condition a ya, she a ya, not a gene de a nagande a. She Chief Justice will Yehegi a Shanan Nishishe. The Judicial Branch will Yehegi a could I Shanan Nishishe. Good afternoon, members of the public, members of the 25th Navajo Nation Council, President Boo Nygren, Speaker Crystalline Curley, members of the audience that are here today, and members of those who are listening online. I am here to present the report for this quarter for the Judicial Branch. First of all, I would like to introduce Benny Francisco. He is the new administrative of the courts director for the Judicial Branch. He has been with us for about 10 days at this time. I would like to introduce him very quickly during the time that I have here. Mr. Francisco has experience and comes from the federal service as the Tribal Court and Assessment Director for the U.S. Department of the Interior, where he served as
Sweet morning light touches the eastern sky as I'm standing on this reservation road.